Test, test. Test, test, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's see. Test, test. Okay, this should be better, I hope. Actually, let's turn it up a little bit more. Test, test. Okay, this looks better, I hope.
Chapter 32. Summoned in Haste. To Egwene, Rand's visit to Cairhien seemed like one of those grand illuminators' fireworks displays she had heard of, but never seen, exploding all through the city. The echoes seemed to reverberate without end. She did not go near the palace again, of course, but wise ones that went every day to search for traps laid with Sa'idar told her what went on. Nobles stared at one another with slitted eyes, Teirin and Cairhienin alike. Berylane seemed to have gone into hiding, refusing to see anyone she did not have to. Rourke apparently took her to task for neglecting her duties with small effect. He appeared to be the only one unaffected in the whole palace. Even the servants jumped if you looked at them, though that might just have been having the wise ones themselves poking into every corner. In the tents, things were no better. Among the wise ones, anyway. The rest of the Aiel were like Rourke, calm and solid. Their attitude made the wise one's moodiness even more tense by comparison, not that it needed any. Amis and Soralea came back from meeting Rand all but hissing. They did not say why, not where Egwene could hear, but the feeling spread through the wise ones as fast as thought, until every one of them stalked about like a bristling cat ready to claw anything that moved. Their apprentices stepped lightly and spoke softly, but still were scolded for what would have passed without notice before, and punished for what would have brought only a scolding. Shaido wise ones appearing in the camp did not help. At least Tharava and Emeris were wise ones. The third was Savannah herself, striding around self-importantly with her blouse unlaced enough to rival Berylane, no matter how the dust blew. Tharava and Emeris said Savannah was a wise one, and though Soralea grumbled, there was no choice but to accept her as one. Egwene was sure they were spying, but Amis merely looked at her when she suggested it. Protected by custom, they had a free run of the tents, welcomed by all the wise ones, even Soralea, as if close friends or first sisters. Still, their presence honed the edge of everyone's mood, especially Egwene's. That smirking cat, Savannah knew who she was, and took no pains to hide her delight in sending the short apprentice girl to fetch a cup of water or the like at any opportunity. Savannah looked at her, too, a studying sort of gaze. It made Egwene think of someone studying a chicken, thinking how to cook it after they stole it. Worse than that, the wise ones would not tell her what they talked about. It was wise ones' business, and none of apprentices. For whatever reason the Shaido were there, the mood among the other wise ones certainly interested them. More than once, Egwene saw Savannah, when she thought herself unobserved, smile as she watched Amis or Melinda or Cosane stalk by, talking to herself and needlessly adjusting her shawl. No one listened to Egwene, of course. Too many comments about the Shaido women finally earned her most of a day spent digging a hole deep enough to stand in without being seen. And when she climbed out, all sweat and filth, to begin filling it in, Savannah was watching. 2 days after Rand left, Aeron and some other wise ones talked three maidens into sneaking over the wall of Aralin's palace in the night to see what they could scout out, and that made everything worse. The three avoided Gawain's guards, if with more difficulty than they expected, but the Aes Sedai were another matter. While they were still climbing from the roof into an attic, they were wrapped up in the tower and whisked inside. Fortunately, Coirin and the others seemed to think they were there to steal, though the maidens might not have thought it was so fortunate. They were tossed into the street, so bruised they could hardly walk and still struggling not to sniffle when they got back to the tents. The other wise ones took turns upbraiding Aeron though Sorelea appeared to make a point of confronting them before as many people as possible. Savannah and her two companions sneered quite openly whenever they saw Aeron or one of the others, and speculated among themselves in very audible voices about what the Aes Sedai would do when they found out. Even Sorelea looked at them askance for that, but no one said anything, and Aeron and her friends began walking as small as the apprentices. The apprentices began trying to hide when not actually performing their duties or taking lessons. Sharp tempers became like razors. Except for her coal, Egwene managed to avoid the worst of it, but only because she stayed away from the tents a good deal, largely to stay clear of Savannah before she taught the woman a lesson. She had no doubt how that would end. Savannah was accepted as a wise one, no matter how many grimaces there might be when she was not around. Amis and Baer would probably let the Shaido woman set her punishment. At least staying away was not too difficult. She might be an apprentice, but only Sorelea made any effort to teach her the 1,000 things a wise one had to know. Until Amis and Baer gave her final permission to return to Teleran Riyadh, her days and nights were largely her own, so long as
I'm
she managed to
experimenting
escape
with
the
a high
snail devils of
resolution
Miranda
window.
and the rest to wash
It's a
dishes
bit
or gather
awkward.
dung for the fires, or the like. She could not understand why the days seemed to pass so slowly. She thought it must be waiting on Amis and Baer. Gawain was at the Long Man every morning. She became used to the fat innkeeper's suggestive smirks, though once or twice she did think of kicking the woman. Maybe 3 times. No more than that. Those hours went by in a flash. No sooner did she sit on his knee than it was time to straighten her hair and leave. Sitting on his knee no longer frightened her. Not that it had ever frightened her exactly, but it had come to be more than pleasant. If she sometimes thought things she should not have, if those thoughts made her blush, well, he always brushed her face with his fingers when she blushed, and said her name in a way she could have spent a lifetime hearing. He let slip less about what was going on with the Aes Sedai than she learned elsewhere, and she could hardly make herself care. It was the other hours that dragged out as though mired in mud. There was so little to do that she thought she might burst from frustration. Wise ones keeping watch in Ireland's mansion reported no more Aes Sedai. Chosen from those who could channel, the watchers said the Aes Sedai was still wielding the power inside day and night without break. But Egwene did not dare go close, and if she had, she could have not told what they were doing without seeing the clothes. Had the wise ones been less snappish, she might have tried to spend time reading in her tent. But the one time she touched a book, except at night by lamplight, Bear muttered so about girls wasting their days lying about lazily that Egwene murmured that she had forgotten something and scurried out of the tent before she was found something more useful to do. A few moments' conversation with another apprentice could be as dangerous. Stopping to talk with Saranda, who was hiding in the shade cast by a tent belonging to some stone dogs, earned her an afternoon doing laundry when Sorelea found them. She might actually have been glad of chores, just for something to do, but Sorelea examined the perfectly clean wash hung inside the tent to keep off the ever-present dust, sniffed, and told them to do it again. Twice she told them to do it again. Savannah watched part of that, too. Being in the city always made Egwene look over her shoulder, yet on the 3rd day she picked her way down to the docks as cautiously as a mouse stealing from a cat. A wizened fellow with a narrow little boat scratched his thinning hair and demanded a silver mark to row her out to the seafolk ship. Everything was dear, but that was ridiculous. She fixed him with a level stare, told him he could have a silver penny, still far too much, really, and hoped the bargaining would not take her whole purse. She did not have much. Everybody jumped and flinched at the Aiel, but when it came to bargaining, they forgot all about Cadansor and spears and fought like lions. He opened his toothless mouth, closed it, peered at her, then muttered under his breath, and, to her surprise, told her she was stealing the bread out of his mouth. "Get in," he grumbled. "Get in. I cannot waste all day for a pittance. Browbeating a man, stealing the bread." He went on like that even after he began working the oars, pulling the tiny boat out onto the broad waters of the Alguenia. Egwene did not know whether Rand had met this wave mistress, but she hoped he had. According to Elaine, the Dragon Reborn was the seafolk Coramor, the chosen one, and all he had to do was appear to have them running at his beck and call. She hoped they did not grovel too much, though. Rand got more than enough of that already. Still, it was not Rand that sent her out with a muttering boatman. Elaine had actually met some of the Afa Amir, had traveled on one of their ships, and she said seafolk windfinders could channel. Some of them, anyway, maybe most. That was a secret the Atha-an-Mier held close, but the windfinder on Elaine's vessel had been more than willing to share her knowledge once her secret was penetrated. Seafolk windfinder knew weather. Elaine claimed they knew more of weather than the Aes Sedai. She said the windfinder on her ship had worked enormous floes to produce favorable winds. Egwene had no idea how much of that was true and how much enthusiasm, but learning a little about weather would certainly be better than twiddling her thumbs and wondering whether being fought by Nasuni might be a relief from the Wise Ones and Savannah. With what she knew now, she could not have made it rain if the skies were black except for lightning. At the moment, of course, the sun burned golden in a cloudless sky, and heat shimmers danced over the dark water. At least the dust did not make it far onto the river. When the boatman finally drew in his oars and let the small craft drift beside the ship, Egwene stood up, ignoring his mutters that she would have them both in the river. "Hello," she called. "Hello, may I come aboard?" She had been on several riverboats and was proud that she knew the right terms. Shipfolk seemed touchy about the right words, but this vessel was outside her experience. She had seen river craft longer, a few, but none so tall. Some of the crew were in the rigging or clambering up the slanted masts, dark, bare-chested men, barefoot in wide, colorful trousers held up by bright sashes, dark women in bright blouses as well. She was just at the point of shouting again, louder, when a rope ladder uncoiled down the side of the ship. No answering call came from the deck, yet that seemed invitation enough. Egwene climbed. It was difficult, not to climb, but keeping her skirts decently close. She could see why the seafolk women wore trousers, but finally she reached the rail. Immediately her eyes fell on a woman not a span away on the deck. Her blouse and trousers were blue silk with a darker sash. She wore 3 worked gold rings in each ear, and a fine chain that supported tiny glittering medallions ran from one to a ring in her nose. Elaine had described this, and even demonstrated using Teleran Riyadh, but seeing it in the flesh made Egwene wince. But there was something else. She could sense the ability to channel. She had found the Windfinder. She opened her mouth, and a dark hand flashed in front of her eyes with a gleaming dagger. Before she could scream, the blade sliced through the ropes of the ladder. Still clinging to the useless thing, she plummeted. She did scream then, for all of a heartbeat, before she went into the river, feet first, plunging deep. Water rushed into her open mouth, drowning her scream. She thought she swallowed half the river. Frantically, she struggled to unwrap her skirts from around her head and rid herself of the ladder. She was not in a panic. She was not... How far down had she gone? It was all muddy darkness around her. Which way was up? Iron bands gripped her chest, but she breathed it out through her nose, watched the bubbles stream, as it seemed to her, down and to her left. Twisting, she stroked for the surface. How far? Lungs burning. Her head broke through into daylight, and she sucked in air with a coughing gasp. To her surprise,
Oh, I
the
didn't
boatman
activate
reached
my
down
booster
and
yet.
hauled her into his
I'll
boat
do
by
it now.
increments, muttering at her to stop thrashing before she upset them, adding that sea folk were a touchy lot. He leaned over again to reclaim her shawl before it sank once more. She snatched it from him, and he shied back as if he thought she meant to hit him with it. Her skirts hung heavily, her blouse in shift clung, her headscarf slanted across her forehead. A pool began to form in the bottom of the boat under her feet. The boat had drifted maybe 20 paces from the ship. The Windfinder was at the railing now, and 2 more women, one in plain green silk, the other brocaded red, worked with gold thread. Their earrings and nose rings and chains caught the sun. "You are refused the gift of passage," the green-clad woman called, and the one in red shouted, "Tell the other, disguises do not fool us. You do not frighten us. You are all refused the gift of passage." The wizened boatman picked up his oars, but Egwene pointed a finger straight at his narrow nose. "Stop right where you are." He stopped. Don't give her not a word of common courtesy. Drawing a deep breath, she embraced Sa'idar and channeled 4 flows before the Windfinder could react. So she knew weather, did she? Could she divide her flows 4 ways? Not many Aes Sedai could. One flow was spirit, a shield she shoved onto the Windfinder to keep her from interfering. If she knew how. Each of the other 3 was air, woven almost delicately around each woman, binding her arms to her sides. Lifting them was not precisely difficult, but not easy either. A clamor rose on the ship as the women floated into the air and out over the river. Egwene heard the boatman moaning. She was not interested in him. The 3 sea-folk women did not even kick. With an effort, she hoisted them higher, some 10 or 12 paces above the surface. No matter how hard she strained, that seemed to be the limit. Well, you don't want to actually hurt them, she thought, and released the weaves. They'll scream now. The sea-folk women curled into balls as soon as they began to fall, spun, straightened with their arms thrust out before them. They entered the water with 3 quite small splashes. Moments later, 3 dark heads broke the surface, and the women began swimming rapidly back toward the ship. Egwene closed her mouth. If I hauled them up by their ankles and dunked their heads, they'll... What was she thinking? They had to scream because she had? She was no wetter than they. I must look like a drowned rat. She channeled carefully. Working about yourself always took care. You could not see the flows clearly, and water rolled off her, oozed out of her garments. It made quite a puddle. It was the boatman staring at her, mouth hanging open and eyes wide, that made her realize what she had done. Channeled, in the middle of the river, with nothing to hide her from any Aes Sedai who happened to be where she could see. Sound or no sound, she suddenly felt cold to the bone. You may take me back to shore now. No telling who was on the docks. At this distance, she could not tell a man from a woman. Not to the city, the riverbank. The fellow flung himself against his oar so hard she almost fell over backward. He took her to a spot where the shore was all smooth rocks the size of her head. There was no one in sight, but she leaped out as soon as the boat grated onto the rocks, hoisted her skirts, and darted up the sloping bank at a dead run she maintained all the way back to her tent, where she collapsed in a panting pile of sweat. She did not go near the city again, except to meet Gawain, of course. The days passed, and the now almost ceaseless wind carried waves of dust and grit day and night. On the 5th night, Bear accompanied Egwene into the world of dreams, just a quick jaunt in the nature of a test, a walk in the part of Teleran-Riyadh that Bear knew best, the Aiel Waste, a parched, jagged land that made even drought-torn Cairien seem lush and fair. A quick trip, and then Bear and Amis came to wake her and see whether it had had any ill effect. It had not. No matter how they made her run and jump, no matter how often they peered into her eyes and listened to her heart, they agreed, but agreement or not, the next night Amis took her for another short trip to the waste, followed by another examination that made her glad to crawl onto her pallet and fall into a deep sleep. Those 2 nights she did not return to the world of dreams, but it was more exhausting than anything else. Before that, she had told herself every night she should stop. A fine thing if she was caught violating their strictures just when they were ready to lift them, but somehow she always decided that just a short trip would be all right, quick enough to reduce the chance of exposure. One thing she did avoid was the place between Teleran-Riyadh and the waking world, the place where dreams floated. Especially she avoided it after she found herself thinking that if she was very careful, she might be able to peek into Gawain's dreams without being drawn in, and that even if she was pulled in, it would only be a dream. She reminded herself firmly that she was a grown woman, not a silly girl. She was just glad no one else knew what a snarl the man made of her thoughts. Amis and Bear would laugh till they cried. On the 7th night, she prepared herself for bed carefully, putting on a fresh shift and brushing her hair till it shone. All useless so far as Teleran-Riyadh was concerned, but it kept her from thinking about how her stomach was doing backflips. Tonight, it would be Aes Sedai waiting in the heart of the stone, not Nynaeve or Elaine. That should make no difference unless... The ivory-backed hairbrush froze in mid-stroke. Unless one of the Aes Sedai revealed that she was only accepted. Why had she not thought of that before? Light, but she wished she could talk with Nynaeve and Elaine, only she could not see what good it would do, and she was certain that a dream of breaking things meant something would go badly wrong if she did speak to them. Chewing her lip, she considered going to Amis and telling her she was not feeling well. Nothing serious, just an upset stomach, but she did not think she could visit the dream tonight. They were going to start her lessons again after tonight's meeting, but another lie, and a coward's way to boot. She would not be a coward. Not everyone could be as brave as everyone else, but cowardice was despicable. Whatever happened tonight, she had to make herself face it, and that was that. For Firmly, she put down the brush, blew out the lamp, and crawled onto her pallet. She was tired enough that falling asleep presented no problem, though if necessary she knew how to put herself to sleep at any time now, or enter a light trance where she could be in the world of dreams and still talk, well, mumble, to someone waiting by her body. The last thing before sleep came, she realized something surprising. Her stomach was not turning over anymore.
Oh,
In a great vaulted chamber,
it went okay.
with thick columns of polished
Well, the last stream I did didn't go well because
in stone,
uh,
gilded lamps hung from
it didn't really work. But I've changed to DirectX 12
everywhere and nowhere.
as my Tibia graphics engine, and this seems to
That morning, except that
solve the issue.
and bracelets sparkled a bit more than even gold really should have.
So I think I should be able to stream normally now. Yep.
Egwene caught only a word here and there, but two of them were Randall Thor. Abruptly, she realized she was wearing an accepted white dress with a banded hem. As soon as she did, it became a copy of the one.
I also changed my resolution, so now everything is super tiny.
The women had noticed or would know what the dress meant if they did. There were times when surrender lost less G and earned less toe than the alternatives, but no Aiel would ever consider it without even trying to fight. They are late again, Amis said wryly, walking out into the open space beneath the chamber's great dome. Driven into the floor stones, there was what appeared to be a sword made of crystal, Colondor of prophecy, a male Sa'angreal, and one of the most powerful ever made. Rand had put it there to remind the Tairins of him, as if there was any chance of them forgetting.
I don't have such a large screen, and I don't even have a dual monitor, which would be much better for streaming, but
To her, it was a wetland.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
At least we can hope they will not.
I would get another screen, but I don't really have too much space on my desk.
Bayer's snort would have made Soralea blink. They will never be better. The least they can do is be where they said they would be when they said they... She cut off as 7 women appeared suddenly on the other side of Colondor. Egwene recognized them, including the young woman with the determined blue eyes she had seen before in Teleran Riad. Who was she? Amis and Bayer had mentioned the others, usually in acid tones, but never another. She wore a blue-fringed short. They all wore their shorts. Their dresses changed color and cut from moment to moment.
In a way, this is also a test stream.
The Aes Sedai's eyes focused immediately on Egwene. The wise ones might as well not have existed. Egwene Alvir, Seriam said formally, you are summoned before the hall of the tower. Her tilted green eyes shone with some suppressed emotion. Egwene's stomach sank. They knew she had been masquerading as a full sister. Ask not why you are summoned, Carlinia said right behind Sheriam, her icy voice making the formality even harder. It is yours to answer, not to question. For some reason, she had cut her dark hair short. That was the sort of unimportant detail.
Yeah, I have it on the right. That's how I got used
She
to it.
certainly did not want to think about what this meant. The ceremonious phrases rolled on in a stately...
But by the way,
Amis and
my
Baer
screen
accepted
isn't
the
that large. I just
frown
changed the
and
resolution
beginning to turn to concern.
from
Delay not
1,900 to 3,000,
kindly, but the bluff
and
face
it made
of
everything
this
shrink to the point where I can barely read any text, though.
It is yours to obey in haste. The three spoke in unison.
So
It
it's
is
kind of a
well to
struggle
hear
to
the
read
summons of
anything,
all.
but
It is well to
my
obey
tibia
in
window
haste
is
with
much
humility
larger,
unasked.
and I have a lot more
You
room
are
for
summoned to kneel before
hotkeys
the
or
tower
whatever I
and
need.
accept their judgment.
Like all this extra space
Egwene
over here,
controlled her breathing,
amazing.
at least enough that she managed not to pant. What was the penalty for what she had done? Not life, she suspected. Not if all this ceremony went with it. They were all staring at her. She tried to read something on those Aes Sedai faces. 6 showed only ageless serenity, with maybe a hint of intensity in the eyes. The young blue had the cool calmness of one who had been Aes Sedai for years, but she could not hide a slight, satisfied smile. They seemed to be waiting for something. I will come as soon as I can, she said. Maybe her stomach was down in her ankles, but she could match them with her voice. No cowardice.
Oh,
She would be Aes Sedai, if they
I mean, the resolution change is nice for seeing the tibia window itself, but I don't know if it's really worth it to have everything so small. Even the program that I use to read the messages that you're sending, it's so tiny. If I get used to this, I might end up needing reading glasses in like a few months.
Swan is sure it would require no more than a day or two if you enter Talleyrand Riyadh physically. No. Bear snapped. At the same instant, Amis said, "We will not teach
I think I'll change it back maybe after I take
It is evil, and whoever does it
a break and
loses
refill.
themselves." You cannot be sure of this, Bayanin said patiently, since it seems none of you have ever done it. But if you know of it, you must have some notion of how it is done. We may be able to work out what you do not know. Patience was exactly the wrong tone. Amis settled her shawl and stood up even straighter than usual. Bear planted fists on hips with a glare that showed teeth. In a moment, there was going to be one of those eruptions the wise ones had hinted at. They were going to teach these Aes Sedai a few lessons about what could be done in Talleyrand Riyadh by way of showing them how little they know. The Aes Sedai faced them quite calmly, full of confidence. Their shawls held steady, but their dresses flickered almost as fast as Egwene's heartbeat. Only
Well, the guy logged in right now, so he might come KS me, I'm not sure.
She had to stop it. She had to go to Saladin.
And I popped the booster, so it would be unfortunate if he comes now.
The humiliation of these Aes Sedai. I know how. I think I do. I'm willing to try. If it did not work, she could always ride. But I still have to know where. Better than I do now, anyway. Amis and Bea turned their attention from the Aes Sedai to her. Not even Carlinia could have equaled those cold stares, or Morgren. Egwene's heart sank after her stomach. Sheriam immediately began giving directions. So many miles west of this village, so many leagues south of that. But the young blue cleared her throat and said, "This may be more help." The voice sounded familiar, but Egwene could not connect it to the face. Perhaps she had little better control of her clothing than the others. Soft green silk became deep blue as she spoke. A high embroidered neck became a lace ruff in the Teheran style. A cap of pearls appeared on her head. But she did
I'll just hope that he doesn't show up. It's possible that he won't.
A map hung in the air to one side with a glowing red dot at one end labeled Cairien in large letters and another as Saladar at the other. The map began to expand and change. Suddenly, the mountains were not just lines, but raised up. The forests took on shades of green and brown. The rivers glittered like blue water in sunlight. It grew until it made a wall hiding the entire side of the park. It was like looking down on the world. Even the wise ones were impressed enough to ignore their disapproval, at least until the woman's Teheran gown turned to yellow silk with a silver embroidered neckline. The young woman was not interested in them, though. For some reason, she stared challengingly at the other Aes Sedai. "That is splendid, Swan," Sheriam said after a moment. Egwene blinked. Swan? It must be a woman of the same name. This younger Swan gave a self-satisfied sniff and a sharp nod very reminiscent of Swan Sanche, but that was impossible. "You're just trying to put it off," she told herself firmly. "It's certainly enough for me to find Saladar, whether or not I can." She glanced at Amis and Bear, so full of silent disapproval they could have been carved of winter stone. "Whether or not I can come here in the flesh. One way or another, I promise I will be in Saladar as soon as I can." The map vanished. Light, what are they going to do to me? Her mouth half formed the question, and Carlinia cut her off sharply, deep in the ceremony again, and even harder than before. "Ask not why you are summoned. It is yours to answer, not to question. Delay not in your coming," Anaya said. "It is yours to obey in haste." The Aes Sedai exchanged glances and vanished so quickly, she half wondered whether they thought she would ask anyway.
My raw is really sucking right now, though. I don't know what's up with that.
But when she turned to them, uncertain whether to begin with an explanation or an apology, or just a plea for understanding, they vanished too.
I need to get the right rhythm for throwing runes.
Stone columns with Kolondor glittering beside her. There were no excuses in Jeddah. Exhaling sadly, she stepped out of Talleyrand Riyadh back to her sleeping body. She woke immediately. Waking when you wished was much a part of a dreamwalker's training as going to sleep when you wished, and she had promised to go as quickly as she could. Channeling, she lit the lamps, all of them. She would need light. She made an effort to be brisk as she knelt beside one of the small chests that stood against the walls of the tent and began digging out clothes she
Where
hadn't
were
worn
they?
since going to the waist. A part of her life was over, but she would
Dark Light and Soul and Rotten Blood, probably.
As soon as Egwene disappeared, Rand stepped out.
Yeah, Dark Light.
He came here sometimes to look at Kalendor.
I think that's the highest,
Visit had been after
the
Oswald
highest
told him to invert his
XP hunting grounds
Then
in
he
the
had
game
changed,
right now.
perhaps laid around
But you
the
do need a
southern
team,
rim,
and that place
but
is
only
no
he could see
joke.
them. If
Well,
the
maybe it
soldiers
is a
who
joke
had
for level
been
2Ks, I
ever
don't know.
rode out would follow after him. He was not sure how much he did believe any longer, but there was no sense taking chances. Luz Therin rumbled somewhere in the back of his head. He always did when Rand came close to Kalendor. But tonight the gleaming crystal sword interested Rand not at all. He stared at where the huge map had hung. Not really a map there at the end, but something more. What was this place? Was it simple chance that drew him here tonight instead of yesterday or tomorrow? One of his Taviran tugs in the pattern? No matter. Egwene had accepted that summons meekly, and that she would never do if it came from the tower and the Mida. This
Oh,
summons
by the way,
were
do you hear me
where the
alright?
mysterious friends were hiding.
Because I was messing around with my microphone sound
They
a little
attended
bit.
themselves to him. Laughing, he opened a gateway to the reflection of the palace in Camelin. Chapter 33. Courage to Strengthen. Kneeling in just her shift, Egwene frowned at that dark green silk riding dress she had worn into the waist, what seemed a very long time ago. There was so much to do. She had given some time to writing a hasty note and rousing Cowinda from her blankets with instructions to leave it at the Long Man in the morning. It
Oh
didn't
no,
go beyond
come
the
on.
fact that she had to go away. She did not know much more, but she could not just disappear without telling Gawain. A few of the phrases made her blush to remember. Saying she loved him was one thing, but actually asking him to wait? Yet she had taken care of him as far as was possible. Now she had to ready herself, and she hardly knew for what. The tent flap was thrown back, and Amis entered, then Baer and Soralia. They stood in a line, looking down at her.
Oh.
Three faces.
It also makes it super hard to see when my
It was very hard not
ring
to
runs
the
out.
to her breast. In her shift, she felt very much at a disadvantage. In armor, she would have been at a disadvantage. A matter of knowing she was in the wrong. She was surprised it had taken them so long to come. She took a deep breath. If you've come to punish me, I don't have time for carrying water or digging holes or any of it. I am sorry, but I said I would come as soon as I can, and I think they mean to count minutes. Amis's pale eyebrows rose in surprise, and a puzzled look passed between Soralia and Baer. How should we punish you? Amis asked. You stopped being a pupil the moment your sisters summoned you. You must go to them as Aes Sedai. Egwene covered a wince by examining the riding dress again. It had gathered remarkably few wrinkles for having been rolled up in a chest all these months. She made herself face them again. I know you're angry with me, and you have cause. Angry? Soralia said. We are not angry. I thought you knew us better. It was true she did not sound angry, yet censure still painted all their faces, including hers. Egwene stared from one to another, especially Amis and Baer. But you told me how wrong you think what I'm going to do is. You said I must not even think about it. I said I wouldn't, and then I went ahead and worked out how to do it. Startlingly, a smile bloomed on Soralia's leathery face. Her multitude of bracelets clattered as she shifted her shawl in a satisfied manner. You see, I told you she would understand. She could be Aiel. Some of the tightness faded from Amis, a little more from Baer, and Egwene understood. They were not angry that she meant to try and drain Riyadh in the flesh. That was wrong in their eyes, but you had to do what you felt you had to do. And even
Yeah, it's low. That's what I figured.
Except to herself. Not angry at all, really. Not yet.
I'll need to figure it out, because if I turn it up too high, then the audiobook comes through.
Maybe her smallest
And if I turn it too low, then the audiobook
Another
doesn't
deep
come
breath
through,
was
but
required to
you're
clear
not
her
able
throat
to
with
hear me
words.
either.
I lied about other things too. I entered Teleran Riyadh alone after I promised I would not. Amis's face darkened again. So Aliyah, not a dream walker, only shook her head ruefully. I promised to obey as a pupil, but when you said the world of dreams was too dangerous after I was injured, I went anyway. Bayer folded her arms, expressionless.
Nah, but this
Aliyah
book is
felt
pretty
sorry about the
shitty.
foolish girls, but
The only
Father
reason I'm
said
listening to it is for
A
completionism.
third long breath. This would be the hardest to say. Her middle was not fluttering anymore. It danced so hard she was surprised she was
I
not
wouldn't want to
afraid.
subject anybody to this book.
The worst of all is, I am not Aes Sedai. I'm only accepted. You might call me an apprentice. I will not be raised to Aes Sedai for years, if I ever am now.
Oh my god,
Aliyah's head came up
9.2
at that.
raw. What's wrong
Thin
with me?
lips compressed in a hard line,
I
but
don't know
still no one said anything.
what I could possibly be
It
doing
looked like
wrong
Wayne
for it to
made
be
matters
that
right.
low.
They could never be exactly as before, but you've admitted everything, a small voice whispered. Now you'd better get on with finding out how fast you can reach Saladar. You can still be raised Aes Sedai one day, but not if you make them madder than they already are. Egwene lowered her eyes and stared at the colorful, layered carpets, her mouth twisting with scorn. Scorn for that small voice. And shame that it could speak in her head, that she could think it. She was going away, but before she did, she had to put matters right. It was possible, under Jedito. You did what you had to do, then paid the cost. Long months ago, in the waste, Avienda had showed her how...
Yeah, but I can make 10.6. So
Gathering every scrap of
9.2
courage she
is
could,
low.
hoping it was enough.
And I don't know
Egwene put the silk
why
press beside itself.
what makes that difference.
Gradually,
I
beginning to
noticed that
make
when I
on
slow
easier.
down a little bit
She still had to look
and
up
I
to meet
pace
her eyes, but she did it
my
proudly.
runes a little bit
Dead high,
farther
and
apart,
it did not
my
have to
XP goes
focus
up.
words at all.
I don't know how to explain that really.
I have toe. Her stomach was not fluttering any longer. I ask the favor that you will help me meet my toe. Saladar was going to have to wait. Leaning on his elbow, Matt examined the game of snakes and foxes laid out on the tent floor. Occasionally, a drop of sweat.
To min-max, I have to get the rhythm perfectly
It was not a board.
and maintain it
Just a piece
for a
of red
long
cloth
time.
with a web of lines drawn in black ink. An arrow showing which lines allowed movement only one way and which both. 10 pale wooden discs each with an inked triangle were the foxes, 10 with a wavy line, the snakes. 2 lamps set to either side gave more than enough light. We will win this time, Matt, Oliver said excitedly. I know we will. Maybe, Matt said. Their 2 black-stained discs were nearly back to the circle in the middle of the board, but the next roll of the dice would be for the snakes and foxes. Most of the time, you did not make it as far as the outer edge. Roll the dice. He never touched the dice cup himself, not since the day he had given it to the boy. If they were going to play the game, it might as well be without his
Ooh,
father
that
taking
sounds
his
so
hand.
fucking good. Even though I'm gonna die it.
With a grin, Oliver rattled the leather cup and spilled out the wooden dice his father had made. He groaned as he counted the pips. This time, 3 dice showed faces marked with a triangle. The other 3, wavy lines.
It sounds better than
Turn,
turducken,
you
I'll
had
give
to
you
move
that.
snakes and foxes toward your own pieces for the shortest path. And if one landed on the point you occupied,
I don't even know what the appeal of turducken is. I never had it. But it's more like a meme, because it's like, oh look, we stuffed a bird inside of a bird inside of a bird. Sure, but all of them taste like chicken, so what's the point really?
And, like other children, stopped playing. Only a child's game, but Matt did not like the fox getting him.
Maybe
and
duck
even less
tastes slightly
snakes.
less than like chicken.
It brought back bad memories, even if one had nothing to do with the other. Well, Oliver muttered, we almost won. Another game, Matt? Not waiting for an answer, he made the sign that opened the game, a triangle and then a wavy line through it, then chanted the words, courage to strengthen, fire to blind, music to dazzle, iron to bind. Matt,
Yes.
why do we say that? There is no fire, no music, and no iron. I don't know. The line
But even then,
in the back of his head.
chicken stuffed with pork sounds better, because then you have 2 types of meat,
Might as well
and
have chosen at random.
mammal meat is usually better.
And there were all
I mean,
those
chicken is
gaps in the
alright,
bone, all those fuzzy places.
but
The boy was
It's nothing exciting.
Usually beginning with why. Deirid ducked in out of the night and gave a start of surprise. Face shining with sweat, he still had his coat on, if hanging undone. His newest scar made a pink furrow across the white lines crisscrossing his face. "I think it's past your bedtime, Oliver," Matt said, pushing himself up. His wounds gave a few twinges, but only a few. They were healing just fine. "Put the board up." He stepped close to Deirid and lowered his voice to a whisper. "If you ever tell about this, I'll cut your throat." "Why?" Deirid asked dryly. "You are turning into a wonderful father. He shows a remarkable resemblance to you." He seemed to be struggling with a grin, but a moment later it was gone. "The Lord Dragon is coming into camp," he said, serious as death. Thoughts of punching Deirid in the nose vanished. Matt pushed the tent flap aside and ducked into the night in his shirt sleeves. 6 of Deirid's men, in a circle around the tent, stiffened when he appeared. Crossbowmen, pikes certainly would not be much good for guards. It was night, but not dark in the camp. The bright glow of a wagon
Sounds really fucking good, I'm not gonna lie.
was washed out by the light of fires spaced among the rows of tents and men sleeping on the ground. Sentries stood every 20 paces all the way to the log palisade. Not the way Matt would have preferred it, but if an attack could pop out of the air. The land lay nearly flat here, so he had a clear view of Rand striding toward him. Not alone. 2 veiled Aiel moved on their toes, heads swiveling every time one of the band rolled over in his sleep or a sentry shifted his feet to watch them. That Aiel woman Avienda was with him as well, a bundle across her back, stalking along as if she would go for the throat of anyone who got in her way. Matt did not understand why Rand kept her around. Aiel women are nothing but trouble, he thought bleakly. And I've never seen a woman more set to give trouble than that.
And another thing that I keep missing because of the resolution
Really the dragon reborn?
is mastermind potions.
Breathlessly. Clutching the rolled-up game to his chest, he was almost bouncing. "It is," Matt told him. "Now get off to bed. This is no place for boys." Oliver went, muttering reproachfully, but only as far as the next tent. Out of the corner of his eye, Matt saw the boy dart out of sight. His face reappeared, peering around the corner. Matt left him alone, though after getting a good look at Rand's face, he wondered whether this was any place for grown men, let alone a boy. That face could have been used to hammer down a wall. But some emotion struggled to break through. Excitement or maybe eagerness. Rand's eyes held a fevered light. He had a wide piece of rolled parchment in one hand, while the other stroked his sword hilt unconsciously. The dragon belt buckle glittered in the firelight. Sometimes the head of one of the dragons...
Yeah, you have the luxury, but also...
When he reached Matt, he wasted no time.
In my opinion,
"I need to talk to you. Hello?"
Berserk potions should stack with Utito.
The night was a black...
It's kind of stupid that Sipsoft are not smart enough to code it in such a way. I mean, it's really stupid that a potion that's supposed to boost your skills means that you don't use a spell that's way more efficient to boost your skills.
Following Rand in, he fingered the silver fox head through his shirt. He had nothing to worry about, at least. He hoped he did not. Rand had said alone, but apparently Avienda did not think that applied to her. She stayed a firm 2 paces from him.
Okay, that was almost a trap.
With an unreadable face. But now and then she glanced at Matt, frowning and eyeing him up and down. Rand paid her no attention, and for all his seeming haste before, he showed none now. He looked around the tent, though Matt wondered uneasily whether he was seeing it. There was not much to see. Oliver had set the lamps back on the small folding table. The chair folded, too, and so did the washstand and the cot. All were black lacquered, with lines of gilt. If a man had coin, he might as well spend it on something. The slits the Aiel had made in the tent wall had been mended neatly, but they still showed. The silence dug at Matt. "What is this, Rand? I hope you haven't decided to change the plan at this late date." No answer, only a look as if Rand had just remembered he was there. It made Matt nervous. Whatever Deirid and the rest of the band thought, he worked hard at keeping clear of battles. Sometimes, though, being Taviran worked against his luck. That was the way he saw it. He believed Rand had something to do with that. He was more strongly Taviran, strong enough that at times Matt almost felt a pulling. When Rand put his finger in, Matt would not be surprised to find himself in the middle of a battle if he was asleep in a barn. A few more days and I'll be in Tyr. The ferries will take the band across the river, and a few days beyond that will see us with Weiraman. It's too bloody late to go meddling. I want you to bring Elaine to Camelin. Rand broke in. I want you to see her safe to Camelin, whatever happens. Don't leave her side until
Finally
we
passed the
join
10 raw.
Yes, Rand said. For some reason, his voice went as cold and hard as his face. But then, did he need reasons if he was going mad? Avienda is going with you. I think it's best. You think it is best, she said indignantly. If I had not wakened when I did, I would never have known you had found her. You do not send me anywhere, Randolph Thor. I must speak with Elaine for my own reasons. I am very glad you found Elaine, Matt said carefully. If he was Rand, he would leave the woman wherever she was. Light Avienda would be better. At least Aiel women did not walk around with their noses in the air or think you should jump just because they said so. Of course, some of their games were on the rough side, and they did have the habit of trying to kill you now and again. I just don't understand why you need me. Jump through one of your gateways, give her a kiss, scoop her up, and jump back. Avienda fastened an outraged stare on him. You would have thought he had advised kissing her. Rand unrolled the large parchment on the table, using the lamps to hold down the ends. This is where she is. It was a map, a stretch of the river Eldar, and maybe 50 miles or so to either side. An arrow had been drawn in blue ink, pointing into the forest. Saladar was printed beside the arrow. Rand tapped near the eastern edge of the map. That was wooded, too. Most of it was. There is a large clearing here. You can see the nearest village is nearly 20 miles north. I'll put a gateway through to the clearing for you and the band.
Now that I know that on DirectX 12 I'm not getting the same step lags and I can stream normally now,
Make your gateway to this
I need to figure out the audio issue and then I'm good.
Was Rand going to make a gateway from Saladar to Camelin as well? It was a long way to ride from the Eldar to Camelin. A very long way, with only a snooty noblewoman and an Aiel for company. The band, Matt. Rand snapped. You and the whole band. He drew a long, shuddering breath, and his tone became milder. His face did not lose its rigidity, though, and his eyes were still feverish. Matt could almost believe he was sick, or in pain. There are Aes Sedai and Saladar, Matt. I don't know how many, hundreds, I've heard, but I won't be surprised if it is closer to 50. The way they go on about the tower, whole and pure, I doubt you'll see more. I mean to put you out 2 or 3 days away, so they can learn you're coming. No point in startling them. They might think you were a White Cloak attack. They're rebels against Elida, and probably frightened enough that you won't have to do more than loom a little and say Elaine has to be crowned in Camelin to make them let her go. If you think they can be trusted, offer your protection. And mine. They're supposed to be on my side, and they might be glad of even my protection by now. Then you escort Elaine, and as many of the Aes Sedai as want to come, straight across Altara and Mirande to Camelin. Show my banners. Announce what you're doing, and I don't think the Altarans or Mirandians will give much trouble. Not as long as you keep moving. If you find any Dragonsworn along the way, gather them in as well. Most will probably turn to bandits if I don't tie a rope to them soon. I've heard a rumor or two already. But you will draw them, flying my banners. His sudden grin showed teeth, but never touched those hot eyes. How many birds with one stone, Matt? You ride through Altara and Mirande with 6,000 men and draw the Dragonsworn out after you, and you may hand me both countries. There was so much in that to set Matt's teeth on edge that he no longer cared whether Rand had 10 sore teeth and both boots full of cockleburrs. Make Aes Sedai think he meant to attack them? Indeed not. And he was supposed to intimidate 50 of them? Aes Sedai did not frighten him, maybe not even 5 or 6 together, but 50? He touched the fox head through his shirt again before he realized it. He might just find out how lucky he really was. As for riding across Altara and Mirande, he could see it now. Every noble whose lands he crossed would swell up like a strutting rooster and try to peck him the moment his back was turned. If that Taviran madness came into it, he would probably find some lord or lady gathering an army right in front of him. He made one more try. Rand, don't you think this might draw Samael's eyes north? You want him looking east. That is why I'm here, remember? To make him look this way. Rand shook his head emphatically. All he'll see is a guard of honor escorting the Queen of Andor to Camelin. And that's if he learns 2 turns of it before you reach Camelin. How quickly can you be ready? Matt opened his mouth and gave it up. He was not going to budge the man. 2 hours? The band could be booted and in their saddles faster, but he was in no hurry, and the last thing he wanted was the band thinking they were moving on the attack. Good, I need an hour or so myself. For what, he did not say. Stay close to Elaine, Matt. Keep her safe. I mean, there's no point to this if she doesn't reach Camelin alive for her coronation. Did Rand think he did not know about him and Elaine canoodling in every corner of the stone the last time they were together? I'll treat her like my own sister. His sisters had done their best to make his life miserable. Well, he expected the same from Elaine, just in a different way. Maybe Avienda would be a little better. She won't get out of my sight until I plunk her down in the royal palace. And if she tries Mistress Snoop on with me too often, I'll bloody well kick her. Rand nodded. That reminds me. Bodwin is in Camelin, with Verin and Alana and some more Two Rivers girls. They're on their way to train for Aes Sedai. I'm not sure where they will do it, so I am certainly not letting them go to the tower the way things are. Maybe the Aes Sedai you bring back will take care of it. Matt gaped. His sister? Aes Sedai? Bode, who used to run tell their mother every time he did anything that was fun? Another thing, Rand went on. Egwene may be in Saladar before you. I think somehow they found out she's been calling herself Aes Sedai. Do what you can to get her out of it. Tell her I will get her back to the Wise Ones as soon as I can. She'll probably be more than ready to go with you. Maybe not, though. You know how stubborn she's always been. The main thing is Elaine. Remember, don't leave her side till she reaches Camelin. I promise, Matt muttered. How under the light could Egwene be somewhere on the Elf? He was sure she had been in Cairhien when he left Mehron, unless she had worked out Rand's trick with the gateways, in which case she could jump back any time she wished, or jump to Camelin and make a gateway for him and Band at the same time. Don't worry about Egwene either. I'll drag her out of whatever trouble she's in, no matter how muley she behaves. It would not be the first time he had pulled her chestnuts off the hearth before they burned. Very likely he would get no thanks for it this time either. Bode was going to be Aes Sedai? Blood and bloody ashes. Good, Rand said. Good. But he was staring intently at the map. He jerked his eyes away, and for an instant Matt thought he intended to say something to Avienda. Instead, he turned away from her roughly. Tom Marilyn should be with Elaine. Rand produced a letter from his pocket, folded and sealed. See that he gets this? Shoving the letter into Matt's hands, he hurriedly left the tent. Avienda took a step after him, half raising a hand, lips parted to speak. Just as suddenly, her mouth snapped shut, and she buried her hands in her skirts and squeezed her eyes shut. So the wind came that way, did it? And she wants to talk to Elaine. How did Rand ever get himself in this pickle? Rand was always the one who knew how to handle women. Rand and Perrin. Still, it was no concern of his. He turned the letter over in his hands. Tom's name was written in a feminine hand. The seal was one he did not recognize. Spreading
9.4. I don't get what I'm doing
what
wrong even.
Woman would be writing to a leathery old man like Tom? Not his concern either. Tossing the letter on the table, he picked up his pipe and pouch. Oliver, he said, stuffing the bowl with tobacco, ask Talmanas, Nalisian, and Deirid to come to me. There was a squeak just outside the door flap, then, yes, Matt, and the sound of scurrying feet. Avienda looked at him, folding her arms with a firm expression. He forestalled her. So long as you travel with the band, you are under my command. I want no trouble, and I expect you to see there isn't any. Should she start anything, he would deliver her to Elaine, tied to a pack saddle, if it took 10 men to put her there. I know how to follow, battle leader. She punctuated that with a sharp sniff. But you should know that not all women are wetland or soft. If you try putting a woman on a horse when she does not want to go, she may...
That is kinda true. Depending on how much mana I have, yes.
He knew Aes Sedai could not read minds. If they could, his hide would have been hanging on a wall in the White Tower long since. But maybe Aiel Wise Ones? Of course not.
That's why I have to... Oh, actually, it's pretty dumb of me to keep my mana up at this point, because I'm about to level up. And I like getting free mana.
Clearing his throat, he stuck the unlit pipe between his teeth and bent to study the map. band could probably cover the distance from the clearing to Saladar in a day if he pushed, even in that wooded terrain, but he intended to take 2 or even 3. Give the Aes Sedai plenty of warning. He did not want them any more frightened than they already were. A frightened Aes Sedai was almost a contradiction. Even wearing the medallion.
Yeah, it's not as useful for EKs, obviously, but for me, getting like 30,000 mana is no joke.
Sitting cross-legged against the tent wall, she was drawing her belt knife along a honing stone and watching him.
Ow.
When Elysian entered with Daerid and Talmanes, he greeted them with, "We're going to tickle some Aes Sedai under the chin, rescue a mule, and put a snip-nosed girl on the lion throne. Oh yes, that's Avienda. Don't look at her crosswise, or she'll try to cut your throat and probably slit her own by mistake." The woman laughed as if he had made the funniest joke in the world. She did not stop sharpening her knife, though. For a moment, Egwene could not understand why the pain had stopped increasing. Then she pushed herself up from the carpets of her tent and stood, sobbing so hard she quivered.
I sometimes use stuff by mistake too.
Know how long she had been crying
and the way I think about it is, it's better for it to be clickable by mistake than for you to struggle to find it when you really need to use it. So if you waste like 5 for each one that's useful, it's still good.
And Bear regarded her soberly, and they were not the only ones, though most of the rest were sitting about on cushions or stretched out, talking and enjoying tea served by a slender Gaishain. A woman thanked the light. They were all women, wise ones and apprentices, women Egwene had told she was Aes Sedai.
9.2 again, Jesus, this is terrible.
She could not have survived that. It was the telling, the spoken lie, but there had been surprises. Kosane, a lean, yellow-haired, spine-ridged Mayagoma, had said gruffly that Egwene had no toe toward her, but she would stay for the tea, and so had Esther. Aeron, on the other hand, seemed to want to cut her in 2, and Saranda. Trying to blink away the haze of tears, Egwene glanced toward Saranda. She was sitting with 3 wise ones, chatting and occasionally looking in Egwene's direction. Saranda had been absolutely merciless. Not that any of them had gone easy. The belt Egwene had found in one of her chests was thin and supple, but twice as wide as her hand. And these women all had strong arms. A half-dozen or so strokes from each added up. Egwene had never felt so ashamed in her life. Not that she was naked and red-faced and weeping like a baby. Well, the weeping was part. Not even that they had all watched her strapped when not taking their own turns. What shamed her was that she had taken it so badly. An idle child would have been more stoic. Well, a child would never have had to face it, but the principle was the simple truth. Is it over? Was that thick, unsteady voice really hers? How these women would laugh if they knew how carefully she had gathered her courage. "Only you know the worth of your honor," Amis said flatly. She held the belt dangling at her side, using the wide buckle as a handle. The murmur of conversation had ceased. Egwene drew a long, shaking breath through her sobs. All she had to do was say it was done, and it was. She could have said enough after one blow from each woman. She could... Wincing, she knelt and stretched herself out on the carpets. Her hands went beneath bare skirts to grasp the woman's bony ankles through her soft boots. This time she would hold on to her courage. This time she would not cry out. This time she would not kick or thrash about or... The belt had not hit her yet. Raising her head, she blinked her eyes clear to glare at them. "What are you waiting for?" Her voice still shook, but there was more than a note of anger, too. Making her wait on top of everything else? "I have a journey to make tonight, in case you've forgotten. Get on with it." Amis tossed the belt down beside Egwene's head. "This woman has no toe toward me." "This woman has no toe toward me." That was Bayer's thin voice. "This woman has no toe toward me," Soralia said forcefully. Bending, she smoothed damp hair from Egwene's face. "I knew you were Aiel in your heart. Do not be overproud now, girl. You have met your toe. Get up before we think you are boasting." Then they were helping her to her feet, hugging her and wiping away her tears, holding a handkerchief for her to finally blow her nose. The other women gathered around, each announcing that this woman had no toe toward her, before adding her own hugs and smiles. It was the smiles that were the biggest shock. Saranda beamed at her as brightly as ever. But of course, toe did not exist once it was met. Whatever earned it might as well never have happened. A bit of Egwene that was not wrapped up in toe thought that maybe what she had said at the end helped too, as well as getting back down in the first place. Perhaps she had not faced it with the indifference of an Aiel in the beginning, but at the end, Soalia was right. She had been Aiel in her heart. She thought a part of her heart always would be Aiel. The wise ones and apprentices left slowly. Apparently, they should remain the rest of the night or longer, all laughing and talking with Egwene, but that was just custom, not toe. And with Soralia's help, she managed to convince them that she just did not have the time. At last, it was only her, Soralia, and the two dreamwalkers. All the hugs and smiles had slowed her tears to a trickle, and if her lips still trembled, no matter what she did, she could still smile. In truth, she wanted to cry again, if for a different reason. Partly for a different reason. She was on fire. I am going to miss all of you so much. Nonsense, Soalia snorted for emphasis. If you have luck, they will tell you you can never be Aes Sedai now. Then you can return to us. You will be my apprentice. In 3 or 4 years, you will have your own hold. I even know the husband for you. My great-daughter Amarin's youngest great son, Tarek. He will be a clan chief one day, I think, so you must watch for a sister wife to be his roof mistress. Thank you.
I have to change posture. Ow.
It seemed she had something to fall back on if the fallen Salazar did send her away. And Amis and I will meet you in Teleran Riyadh, Fair said, and tell you what we know of events here and with Randolph 4. You will go your own way in the world of dreams now, but if you wish it, I will still teach you. I do wish it. If the hall let her anywhere near Teleran Riyadh. But then they could not keep her out. Whatever they did, they could not do that.
I don't think I heard of the
Please
Gladiator.
keep a close eye on Rand and the Aes Sedai. I don't know what he is playing, but I'm
Is that like
he's
the
more dangerous than he thinks.
show that's a remake
Said
of
nothing about more teaching her. She had given her word on a course of action, and even meeting Toad did not erase that.
oh, the movie, not a show. Okay.
I know Rourke will regret not being here tonight.
I don't think I've ever watched it, to be honest.
Do not be afraid your toe toward him must go unmet. He will give you the opportunity when you meet once more. Egwene
It's I guess sort of a classic, but I've still not
she had
watched it.
forgotten all about Rourke. Of course, nothing said she had to pay her obligation to him in the same way. Maybe her heart was at least partly Aiel, but for a moment her mind sought frantically for another method. There had to be one, and she would have plenty of time to find it before seeing him again. I will be very grateful, she said faintly. And there was Mullane, too, and Arvienda. Light, she had thought she was done with it. Her feet kept shifting no matter how hard she tried to hold still. There had to be another way. Claire opened her mouth, but Soralia cut her off. We must let her clothe herself. She has a journey to begin. Claire's thin neck stiffened, and Amis's mouth turned down. Clearly, neither liked what Egwene was going to try any more than before. Maybe they meant to stay and try talking her out of it, but Soralia began muttering only half under her breath about fools who tried to stop a woman from doing what she thought she had to do. The younger pair straightened their shawls. Claire had to be 70 or 80, but she certainly still was younger than Soralia. Gave Egwene a farewell hug and left with murmurs of, "May you always find water and shade." Soralia waited only a moment longer. Think on Tarek. I should have asked him to the sweat tent so you could see him. Until you can, remember this. We are always more afraid than we wish to be. But we can always be braver than we expect. Hold on to your heart, and the Aes Sedai cannot harm what is really you. Your heart. They are not nearly so far above us as we believed. May you always find water and shade, Egwene. And always remember your heart. Alone, Egwene merely stood for a time, staring at nothing and thinking. Her heart. Perhaps she did have more courage than she thought. She had done what she had to do here. She had been Aiel.
9.2 again. What's up with that?
Aes Sedai methods differed from the wise ones in some respects, but they would not go easy if they knew she had called herself Aes Sedai. If they knew. She could not imagine why else they would summon her so coldly. But Aiel did not surrender before battle was joined.
It is possible, but I just hunt the same way always, so I don't know why it would go up and down.
She thought wryly. I might as well get on to the battle. Chapter 34.
9.1, Jesus, this is terrible.
Egwene washed her face. Twice. Then she found her saddlebags and filled them. Her ivory comb and brush and mirror went in, and her sewing box. A small, finely gilded casket that likely had held some lady's jewels once. Plus a white cake of rose-perfumed soap and clean stockings and shifts and handkerchiefs and a host of things, until the leather sides bulged and she could hardly buckle the flaps down. Several dresses and cloaks, an Aiel shawl, remained to make a bundle, which she tied neatly with a cord. That done, she looked around for anything else she might want to take. It was all hers. Even the tent had been given to her, but that was certainly too bulky, as were the carpets and cushions. Her crystal wash basin was beautiful and far too heavy. The same for the chests, though several had beautiful work on the strapping and lovely carving. Only then, thinking about the chests of all things, did she realize she was trying to put off the hardest bit of getting ready. Courage, she said dryly. Heart of an Aiel. It turned out to be quite possible to put on stockings without sitting down, so long as you did not mind hopping around. Stout shoes followed, good if she had to walk far, and a silk shift, white and soft. Then the dark green riding dress, with its narrow divided skirts. Unfortunately, that fit quite snugly over the hips, enough to remind her unnecessarily that she would not enjoy sitting for a while. There was no point going outside. Bear and Amis were probably in their own tents, but she had no intention of risking the chance one of them might see her do this. It would be like slapping them, if it worked, that was. If not, she had a very long ride ahead of her. Nervously rubbing her fingers over her palms, she embraced Sa'idar, letting it fill her, and shifted her feet. Sa'idar made you more aware of everything, including your own body, which she would just as soon have missed right then. Trying something new, something no one had ever tried before that she knew, should have been done slowly and carefully, but for once she wanted to be rid of the source. She channeled briskly, flows of spirit, woven just so.
Hey Cherry, what's up?
The air shimmered in the middle of the tent along her weave, cloaking the other side in mistiness. If she was right, she had just created a place where the interior of her tent was so similar to its reflection.
It's funny that you both are watching the stream from different users.
But there was only one way to be sure. Tossing the saddlebags over her shoulder, she took the bundle under one arm and stepped through the weave, then let go of Sa'idar. She was in Teleran's yard. All it took to tell her was that the lamps that had been lit were no
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I don't appreciate it.
Sort of light. Things moved slightly between one glance and the next. The wash basin, a chest. She was in Teleran's yard in the flesh. It felt no different than when she came in a dream. She ducked outside. A three-quarter moon shone down on tents where no fire burned and no one moved. On a Kyrian that seemed oddly distant and clouded in shadow. All that remained was the problem of actually getting to Saladar. She had thought about that. A great deal depended on whether she had as much control in the flesh as when she was part of the world of dreams. Fixing in her mind what she would find, she walked around the tent and smiled.
Damn, I also feel like smoking.
The short, shaggy mare
But it's gonna take like 10 minutes at least until I can take a break.
The stout mare tossed her nose and whickered to the side of her. Egwene dropped her burdens and flung her arms around the horse's head. I'm glad to see you again, too, she whispered. That dark, liquid eye looking at her was Bela's, reflection or no. Bela wore the high-cantled saddle she had imagined, too. Comfortable for long travel normally, but not soft. Egwene eyed the thing askance, wondering how it would look padded. Then she had a thought. You could change anything in Teleran Riyadh if you knew how, even yourself. If she had enough control to make Bela while in the flesh, she concentrated on herself. smile, she fastened the saddlebags and bundle behind the saddle and climbed up herself, settling quite comfortably. "It isn't cheating," she told the mare. "They would not expect me to ride all the way to Saladar like that." Well, come to think of it, maybe they would. Even so, Ailhart or no Ailhart, there were limits. Turning Bela, she heeled the mare's ribs gently. "I need to be as quick as I can, so you will need to run like the wind." Before she had time to chuckle at the image that came to mind of plump Bela running like the wind, the mare was doing so. The landscape blurred, streaking by. For a moment, Egwene clung to the pommel of the saddle, her mouth hanging open. It was as if Bela's every trotting step carried them miles. With the first, she had an instant to realize they were on the riverbank below the city, with ships floating out on the dark waters amid streaks of moonlight. And even as she tried to jerk at the reins to stop Bela running headlong into the river, another step took them into thicketed hills. Egwene threw back her head and laughed. This was marvelous. Except for the blurring, there was little real sensation of speed. Her hair hardly had time to stream back in the wind of that rush before it was gone, only to come again a moment later. Bela's gait felt the same plodding trot she recalled, but the sudden leap of everything around her was exhilarating. One moment a village street, moon dark and silent. The next a country road winding through hills. The next a meadow with hay standing almost to Bela's shoulders. Egwene only paused now and again to orient herself. No trouble at all with that marvelous map in her head, the one the woman with Swan's name had made, and otherwise let Bela trot. Villages and towns appeared and vanished in a blur. Great cities, one she thought sure was Camelin, walls silvery white in the night, and once in forested hills the head and shoulders of a huge statue rearing out of the earth, a remnant of some land lost in history, appearing so suddenly at Bela's side with a weathered grimace that Egwene nearly screamed, only it was gone before she could. The moon did not move at all between leaps, and hardly any as they sped along. A day or two to reach Saladar? That was what Sheriam had said. The wise ones were right. Everyone had believed for so long that Aes Sedai knew everything that Aes Sedai believed it too. She was going to prove them wrong tonight, but it was not likely they would take any real notice of her proof. They knew. After a time, when she was sure she was somewhere well into Altara, she began letting Bela make smaller jumps, reining her in more often, even riding normally for a bit, especially if there was a village nearby. Sometimes a night-shrouded inn had a sign that named the village, the Morella Inn or the Ionin Spring Inn, and moonlight added to the odd sense of light in Teleran Riyadh made reading them easy. Bit by bit, she became absolutely certain where she was in relation to Saladar and began to take still smaller leaps. Then, none at all, only letting Bela trot normally through forest where tall trees had killed most of the undergrowth and drought most of the rest. Still, she was surprised when a considerable village appeared suddenly, silent and dark in the moonlight. It had to be the right place, though. At the edge of the thatch-roofed stone houses, she dismounted and took down her belongings. It was late, thought people might still be about in the waking world. No need to startle them by popping out of the air. If an Aes Sedai saw that and mistook what she was, she might have no chance to face the hall. "You did run like the wind," she murmured, hugging Bela a last time. "I wish I could take you with me." A useless fancy, of course. What was made in Teleran Riyadh could exist only there. This was not really Bela, after all. Even so, she felt a twinge of regret as she turned her back. She would not stop imagining Bela. Let her exist as long as she could, and wove her shimmering curtain of spirit. Head high, she stepped through, ready to face whatever came with her Ailhart. One step she took, and came up short with a sharp, wide-eyed "oh." The changes she had made in
Okay,
Teleran
my
existed in the
my
village,
booster is
no more than
done,
Bela did.
so I can
Flames
technically
returned with a rush,
leave
and with them it was almost as though Sorelius
to
spoke to her.
refill and do a weed
Take
break if
what
you guys
did
want.
to meet your toe, and make it so it might as well never have happened. How have you met Toe? Remember your Ailhart, girl. Yes, she would remember. She was here to do battle, whether the Aes Sedai knew it or not, ready to fight for the right to be Aes Sedai, ready to face... light what? There were people in the streets, a few moving between houses where lighted windows made golden pools. Walking a little gingerly, Egwene approached a wiry woman with a white apron and a harried expression. "Excuse me, my name is Egwene Alvira. I am accepted." The woman gave her riding dress a sharp look. "And I've just arrived. Can you direct me to Sheriam Sedai? I need to find her." Very likely Sheriam was asleep already, but if she was, Egwene intended to wake her. She had been told to come as soon as possible, and Sheriam was going to know she was here. "Everyone comes to me," the woman muttered. "Does anybody do anything for themselves? No, they want Nildra to do it. You accepted are the worst of the lot. Well, I don't have all night. Follow me if you're coming. If not, you can find her for yourself." Nildra strode off without so much as a backward glance. Egwene followed suddenly. If she opened her mouth, she was afraid she would tell the woman what she thought, and that would hardly be the way to start her stay in Celadar. However short it might be, she wished her Aiel heart and her Two Rivers head could get together. The distance was not long. Up the hard-packed dirt street a little way, and around the corner into another narrower street. Sounds of laughter came from some of the houses. Nildra stopped at one that was silent, though light shone in the windows of the front room. Pausing just long enough to knock on the door, she went in before there was any answer. Her curtsy was perfectly proper, if quick, and she spoke in a somewhat more respectful tone than before. "Aes Sedai, this girl says her name is Egwene, and she..." She got out no more. They were all there. The 7 from the Heart of the Stone, not a one looking ready for bed, though all but the young woman with Swan's name wore robes. From the way their chairs were pulled together, it seemed that Egwene had walked in on a discussion. Sheriam was the first to leap from her chair, waving Nildra out. "Light, child, already?" No one paid any mind at all to Nildra's curtsy, or her put-upon sniff on going. "We never expected," Anaya said, taking Egwene's arms with a warm smile. "Not so soon. Welcome, child, welcome." "Were there any ill effects?" Morbryn demanded. She had not risen, and neither had Carlinia or the young Aes Sedai, but Morbryn leaned forward intently. All the other robes were silk of various hues, sometimes brocaded or embroidered. Hers was plain brown wool, though it did look soft and finely woven. "Do you feel any changes from the experience? We had precious little to go on. Frankly, I am surprised it worked." "We shall have to see it work to know how well it does." Bayanin paused for a sip of tea, then set cup and saucer down on a rickety-legged side table. The cup and saucer did not match, but then none of the furniture matched, and most looked as lopsided as the small table. "If there are ill effects, she can be healed, and they will be done with." Egwene stepped away from Anaya quickly, setting her belongings beside the door. "No, I am quite well. Really, I am." She could have hesitated. Anaya might well have healed her without asking. That would have been cheating, though. "She appears healthy enough," Carlinia said coolly. Her hair really was short, dark curls barely covering her ears. It had not been just something she did in Teleran Riad. She wore white, of course. Even the embroidery was white. "We can have one of the yellows check her thoroughly later to be sure, if need be." "Let her get her feet on the ground," Myrell said with a laugh. Lush flowers in yellow and red so covered her robe that hardly any green showed. "She's just come 1,000 leagues in a night. In hours." "You've no time to let her find her feet," the young Aes Sedai put in firmly. She truly looked out of place in that gathering, in her yellow dress with the skirts slashed with blue and the deep round neckline blue embroidered. That, and being the only one it was possible to put an age to. Come morning, the hall will swarm around her. If she's not ready, Romanda will gut her like a fat cock. Egwene gaped. That voice registered more than the words. "Your swan, Sanche." "No, it's impossible." "Oh, it is possible, all right," Anaya said dryly, giving the young woman a long-suffering look. "Swan upon his Aes Sedai again. Myrell's look was more exasperated than long-suffering. It had to be true. They had said so. But Egwene could hardly credit it even when Sheriam explained. Nynaeve had healed? Stilling? Being stilled was why Swan looked no older than Nynaeve. Swan had always been a leather-faced taskmistress, and leather-hearted as well. Not this pretty, creamy-cheeked woman with an almost delicate mouth. Egwene watched Swan while Sheriam talked. Those blue eyes were the same, though. How could she have seen that gaze strong enough to drive nails and not know? Well, the face was answer enough there. But Swan had always been strong in the power, too. When a girl first began, it required testing to tell how strong she would be, but not once she had gained that strength. Egwene knew enough now to weigh another woman in moments. Sheriam was clearly the strongest woman in the room, aside from Egwene herself. And Myrell next, though it was hard to be certain. The rest all seemed close, except for Swan. She was weakest by a fair margin. This truly is Nynaeve's
Thanks for the
most
follow.
discovery, Myrell said. The Yellows are taking what she has done and making their own.
And
she began it.
it's a
Sit
bot.
down, child. It is too long a story to hear standing. I prefer to stand, thank you. Egwene eyed the straight-backed chair with a wooden seat that Myrell indicated, and barely repressed a shudder. What about Elaine? Is she all right, too? I want to hear all about her and Nynaeve both. Nynaeve's most remarkable discovery? That implied more than one. It seemed she had fallen behind with the Wise Ones. She was going to have to run hard to catch up. At least she thought now that she would be allowed to. They would hardly have greeted her so warmly if she was going to be sent away in disgrace. She had not curtsied or called anyone Aes Sedai once, more because she had had no chance than for any other reason. Defiance was no way to face Aes Sedai. Yet no one had called her down. Maybe they did not know after all. But then why? Except for a little trouble she and Nynaeve have with pots at the moment. Sheriam began, but Swan broke in harshly. Why are you all jabbering like brainless girls? It's too late to be afraid of going on. It has begun. You began it. Either you finish, or Amanda will hang the lot of you in the sun to dry right alongside this girl. And Alana and Faisal and the rest of the hall will be there with her to stretch you out. Sheriam and Myrell turned to face her almost together. All the eyes Sedai did. Morvrin and Carlinia twisting in their chairs. Cold Aes Sedai eyes stared from cold Aes Sedai faces. At first, Swan met those stares with a challenging stare of her own. As Aes Sedai as they, if seemingly much younger. Then her head fell a little, and spots of color entered her cheeks. She rose from her chair, eyes down. I spoke in haste, she muttered softly. Those eyes did not change. Maybe the Aes Sedai failed to notice what Egwene saw.
I don't know if you guys can
Yet
hear
that
me,
was still not
but if you guys are
enough.
down to smoke, then
Egwene also
this is
saw
a
that
perfect
she did
time
not
for that.
know what was going on here at all. Not just Swan Sanche, meek as milk, if she was pushed to it anyway. That least of all, what had they begun? Why would she be hung out to dry if they stopped? The Aes Sedai exchanged looks as unreadable as Aes Sedai could make them. Morvrin was the first to nod. You have been summoned for a very special reason, Egwene, Sheriam said solemnly. Egwene's heart began to beat faster. They did not know about her. They did not. But what? You, Sheriam said, are to be the next Amerlin seat. Chapter 35. In the Hall of the Sitters.
Wait, what's going on? Mm. So how about a smoke, you guys? You down? I got the weed right here. Take your time, don't worry, I have to go to the bathroom also. This is my vape. Oh, it's barely noticeable. It's pretty bulky, but it's also heavy duty and it works really well. So should I not start warming it up? Well, I guess you take care of the bong. I'll... Okay, then. Give me a second. I'll go to the bathroom real quick and start working on my coffee also. Okay. Oh yeah, before that, okay, this looks a lot more normal for tibia for me. Now we can actually see shit. And let's try to take care of the audio. Hmm. Test, test. Okay, this looks like it's okay. Test, test. I should be way more audible now. But I don't know what to do about the audio book coming through. It's basically picking it up from here, even though the microphone's over here, it's picking up what's in my headphones. So I could lower the volume of the headphones, but up to a point. If still not 100%, I could still improve it even more. I just don't want it to blow people's ears out. This is the max I can... Oh, wow. This should be way better, even though I see... well, okay, yeah, it's gonna...
Egwene stared at Sheriam, wondering whether she was supposed to laugh. Maybe in her time...
Yeah, it's all coming through. I can see it in the levels.
With the
Blah, 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 blah. I mean, sure, I could also lower the output into my headphones, and hopefully that will lower it a bit. But anyway, I'll go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. You take care of your bong. It seems the microphone's popping even though I'm nowhere near it. What the hell? I still need to lower the mic a bit, I think. Oh, my voice was much louder than the book. You guys ready, by the way? Okay. Sadly, I still have to warm it up. It's gonna take a while to get there. No, not yet, not yet. It's 48 out of 165. It'll get there eventually. I'll do the smart thing and actually head back to the spawn while it's warming up. Nope. That's good. Yeah, I saw the mic popping even though I was nowhere near the living room. So I lowered it a little bit. Okay, there we go. Cheers. Now the terpenes are all gone, so it just tastes like flowers rather than weed. Well, the compounds that give weed its like weed flavor, they all like boil off on the first puff or two. So now it just tastes like flowers instead of weed. What do you mean by one-hitters? Isn't every bongo one-hitter? Oh, and I forgot to check if I have any hunting tasks. Nope. What about praise? Nope. But then you get sloppy seconds. That's kind of that's terrible. I have a friend that keeps insisting. So because I quit actually smoking and my lungs can't take smoke, I only smoke when my friend shows up, which is like a few times a year. And so I would smoke a bong, but my lung capacity and my tolerance to the smoke is too low, so I end up leaving a lot of smoke in the bottle. And when I say bottle, I mean the bong, because we make bongs out of like half-liter bottles. So he asks me to get the sloppy seconds every time, and I don't get it. I really don't understand this guy. Yeah, that's not for me. I would rather waste the tail ends of the smoke and just fill a new one if I were him. Oh, what the hell? Because I shrunk my screen again. I need to fix my windows here. Okay, back to it.
Sherian stared back with that ageless, imperturbable face, tilted green eyes not seeming to blink.
Have
Egwene
fun.
looked at the others. 7 faces with no expression, just an air of waiting. Swan might have been smiling faintly, but the smile could as easily have been the natural curve of her lips. Wavering lamplight made their features suddenly strange and inhuman. Egwene's head felt light, her knees weak. Without thinking, she let herself thump down in the straight-backed chair. She stood right up again, too. That certainly cleared her mind. A little, anyway. I am not even Aes Sedai, she said breathlessly. That seemed non-committal enough. It had to be some sort of joke or something. That can be gotten around, Sherian said firmly, jerking the bow of her pale blue sash tighter for emphasis. Bayanin's honey-colored braids swayed as she nodded. The Amelin seat. She is Aes Sedai. The law is quite clear. Several places it is stated, the Amelin seat as Aes Sedai, but nowhere is it said that it is necessary to be Aes Sedai to become Amelin. Any Aes Sedai would be familiar with power law, but as mediators, Greys had to know the law of every land, and Bayanin took on a lecturing tone, as though explaining something that none knew as well as she. The law that sets forth how the Amelin is to be chosen. It merely says, the woman who is summoned. Or, she who stands before the hall, or the light. From beginning to end, the words Aes Sedai are mentioned not once. Never. Some might say that the intent of the framers, it must be considered, but it is clear, whatever the intent of the women who wrote the law, that... She frowned as Carlinia cut her off. No doubt they thought it was understood to such a degree that there was no need to state it. Logically, however, a law means what it says, whatever the framers thought they meant. Laws seldom have much concern with logic, Bainin said acidly. In this case, however, she considered after a moment, you are quite correct. To Egwene, she added, and the whole, they see it so also. They were all serious. Even Anaya, when she said, you will be Aes Sedai, child, just as soon as you are raised, Amyrlin Seat. That is the long and short of it. Even Swan, despite her tiny smile, it was a smile. You can take the 3 oaths as soon as we are back in the tower, Sheriam told her. We considered having you speak to them anyway, but without the oath rod, it might be taken for a sham. Best to wait. Egwene almost sat down again before catching herself. Maybe the wise ones had arrived. Maybe traveling through Teleran Riyadh in the flesh had done something to her mind. This is madness, she protested. I can't be Amyrlin. I'm... Objections piled up on her tongue in a tangle that let nothing out. She was too young. Swan herself had been the youngest Amyrlin ever, and she was 30 when raised. She had barely begun her training, no matter what she knew about the world of dreams. Amyrlins were knowledgeable and experienced, and wise. They were certainly supposed to be wise. All she felt was confounded and muddled. Most women spent 10 years as a novice, and 10 as accepted. True, some moved faster, even much faster. Swan had. But she herself had been a novice less than a year, and accepted an even shorter time. It's impossible, was the best she could manage, finally. Morbryn's snort reminded her of Soralia. Settle yourself down, child, or I'll see to it myself. This is no time for you to grow fluttery or start fainting on us. But I wouldn't know what to do. Not the first thing. Egwene drew a deep breath. It did not really calm her racing heart, but it helped. A little. Aiel her. Whatever they did, she would not let them bully her. Eyeing Morbryn's blocked, hard face, she added, she can skin me, but she can't bully me. This is ridiculous, is what it is. I won't paint myself for a fool in front of everybody, and that is what I'd be doing. If this is why the Hall summoned me, I'll tell them no. I fear that is not an option. Anaya sighed, smoothing her robe, a surprisingly frilly thing in rose silk, with delicate ivory lace bordering every edge. You cannot refuse a summons to become Amyrlin any more than you could a summons for trial. The words of the summons are even the same. That was heartening. Oh, yes, it was. The choice is the Hall's now. Marvell sounded a touch sad, which did nothing for Egwene's spirits. Suddenly smiling, Sheriam put an arm around Egwene's shoulders. Do not worry, child. We will help you and guide you. That is why we are here. Egwene said nothing. She could think of nothing to say. Maybe obeying the law was not being bullied, but it felt much the same. They took silence for assent, and she supposed it was. Without delay, Swan was sent off, grumbling at being handed the task, to wake the sitters personally and let them know Egwene had arrived. The house became a whirlwind before Swan made it out the door. Egwene's riding dress came in for considerable discussion, none of which she was part of, and a plump serving woman was roused from her nap in a chair in a back room and sent off with dire warnings if she breathed a word to fetch every accepted dress she could find that might come close to fitting Egwene. She tried on 8 right there in the front room before finding one that did fit, after fashion. It was too tight in the bosom, but thankfully loose in the hips. All the time the serving woman was bringing in dresses and Egwene was trying them on, Sheriam and the others took turns running out to dress themselves, and in between lectured her on what was going to happen, what she had to do.
No, I'm getting step lags again, and the only thing I changed is resolution.
The
Fuck.
wise ones thought saying something once was sufficient, and woe to the apprentice who failed to listen and hear. Egwene remembered some of what she had to say from a novice lecture in the tower, and she got it word perfect the first time. But the Aes Sedai went over everything again and again, and then again. Egwene could not understand. With anyone else but Aes Sedai, she would have said they were nervous, calm faces or no. She began to wonder whether she was making some mistake and started emphasizing different words. Say them as you are told. Carlinia snapped like a crackling icicle, and Myrelle, sounding hardly less cold, said, You cannot afford a mistake, child. Not one. They put her through it 5 more times, and when she protested that she had given back every word correctly, listed who would stand where and who would say what, just the way they had told her, she thought Morven might box her ears if Bayanin or Carlinia did not first. In the event, their frowns were as hard as slaps, and Sherian looked at her as if she were a novice being sulky. Egwene sighed and began yet again. I enter with 3 of you escorting me. It was a solid procession that made its way through the nearly empty, moon-shadowed streets. Few of the scattered people still out so much as glanced at them. 6 Aes Sedai, with 1 lone accepted in their midst, might or might not be a common sight here, but apparently it was not odd enough to occasion comment. Windows that had been lit were dark now. Quiet lay on the town, so their footsteps sounded distinctly on the hard dirt. Egwene fingered the great serpent ring, firmly back in place on her left hand. Her knees were trembling. She had been prepared to face anything, but her list of anything had never included this. In front of a rectangular 3-story stone...
Let me know if you guys are still here.
Windows were all dark, but by moonlight it had the
Like Pip and Cherry. Because I don't know if this is coming across in the stream, this like step lag, and all the creatures moving a bit clunky. Even though my ping is normal and my FPS is fine.
Anaya stroked Egwene's hair soothingly. It will go well, child. She carried a bundle under her arm, the dress Egwene would put on after everything was over. You are a quick study. Inside the stone building, a gong sounded deeply, once, twice, a 3rd time. Egwene very nearly jumped. Silence for the space of a heartbeat. Then the gong repeated its brazen song. Myrelle smoothed her dress unconsciously. Once more silence, followed by the triple call. Sheriam opened the door, and Egwene followed her in with Myrelle and Morven on her heels. The way they surrounded her, Egwene could not help thinking, was like guards set to make sure she did not run away. The large, high-ceiling room inside was not dark, far from it. Lamps lined the mantels of 4 wide stone fireplaces, and more lined the stairs leading to the next floor and the railed walkway overlooking the room. A tall, branched stand lamp, mirrored to increase the light, stood in each corner of the room. Blankets tacked over the window kept all that light in. 9 chairs made a row down either side of the room, facing inward in groups of 3. The women in them, the sitters for the 6 Ajahs represented in Saladar, wore their shawls and...
I might have to go out and fix my resolution again if that really is what's causing this issue. What the hell?
At the far end of the room was another chair, standing on a small dais, more like a flat box. A tall, heavy chair, the legs and uprights carved in spirals. It had been painted dark yellow, in imitation of gilt. A stole lay across the arms, striped with 7 colors. It seemed miles from where Egwene stood to that stole. Who comes before the hall of the tower? Romanda demanded in a high, clear voice. She sat just below the golden chair, opposite the 3 blue sisters.
Let's see.
Stepped smoothly aside, revealing Egwene. One who comes obediently.
I guess this hunt won't be optimal.
Her voice should have been shaken. Surely they were not really going to do this. Who comes before the hall of the tower? Romanda demanded again. One who comes humbly.
But it seems to have fixed the issue again. What the hell?
Pretending to be Aes Sedai. No, not that. They would just have shielded her and locked her away until time, if that was the case. But surely... Who comes before the hall of the tower? One who comes at the summons of the hall, obedient and humble in the light, asking only to accept the will of the hall. Among the graves below Romanda, a dark, slender woman stood. As the youngest sitter, Pomesa spoke the ritual question that dated to the breaking of the world. Are there any present save women? Romanda flung back her shawl deliberately and left it over the back of her chair as she stood. As eldest, she would answer first. Just as deliberately, she unfastened her dress and pushed it down to her waist along with her ship. I am a woman, she announced. Carefully, Pomesa laid her own shawl across her chair and stripped to the waist. I am a woman, she said. The others rose then and began bearing themselves, each announcing, once she was showing proof, that she was a woman. Egwene struggled a little with a snug bodice accepted dress that had been found for her, and had to have Myrell's help with the buttons, but quickly they four were as bare as anyone else. I am a woman, Egwene said with the others. Pomesa walked slowly around the room, pausing before each woman for an almost insultingly direct stare, then halted in front of her own chair again and announced that there were none present but women. The Aes Sedai sat, and most began pulling up their bodices. Not in haste exactly, but few wasting any time either. Egwene almost shook her head. She could not cover until later in the ceremony. Long ago, Pomesa's question would have required more proof. In those days, formal ceremonies were held clad in the light, which was to say, in nothing but your own skin. What would these women make of an Aiel sweat tent or a Shienaran bath? There was no time for thought. Who stands for this woman, Romanda said, and pledges for her, heart for heart, soul for soul, life for life? She sat erect and supremely dignified, her plump bosom remaining bare. I so pledge, Sheriam said firmly, followed a moment later by the strong voices of Morbrin and Myrell in turn. Come forward, Egwene Olivir, Romanda commanded sharply. Egwene walked forward 3 paces and knelt. She felt numb. Why are you here, Egwene Olivir? She really was numb. She could not feel anything. She could not remember her responses either, but somehow...
Not really. What you missed was me getting the same issue. I changed the resolution back during the break.
Do you seek, Egwene Olivir?
And immediately I started noticing fucking issues again with the step lag. So I changed resolution back to 3K, but I've enlarged everything by 250%, which is basically the same as it was before. And that seems to have fixed the issue. I have no fucking idea why.
Still stop this idiocy. She could not possibly be up to actually... in the Armerlin seat, if it pleases the hall of the tower. Her breath froze. Too late for turning back now. Maybe it had been too late in the heart of the stone. Delana was the first to stand, then Pomesa and Janya.
Yep.
More, until 9 sitters stood before their chairs, signifying acceptance. Romanda was still firmly in her seat. 9 of 18. The acceptance had to be unanimous. The hall always sought consensus. In the end, all votes were unanimous, though it could take a great deal of talking to make it so. But there were no talking aside from the ceremonial phrases tonight, and this was one short of outright rejection. Sheriam and the others had ridiculed her suggestion that that might happen, and did so quickly that she might have worried if the whole thing was not so ridiculous. But they had warned her almost in passing that this could occur. Not a rejection, but a statement that the sitters who remained in their chairs did not mean to be lapdogs. Only a gesture, a token, according to Sheriam, but looking at Romanda's stern face and Lelane's, scarcely less so above her bare chest, Egwene was not certain of that at all. They had said it might be as many as 3 or 4, too. Without a word, the standing women retook their places. No one spoke, but Egwene knew what to do. Her numbness had vanished. Rising, she moved toward the nearest sitter, a sharp-faced green named Solomon, who had stayed in her chair. As Egwene went to her knees again in front of Solomon, Sheriam knelt beside her, a wide basin of water in her hands. Ripples danced on the surface of the water. Sheriam appeared cool and dry, while Egwene was beginning to glisten with sweat, but Sheriam's hands were trembling. Morbin knelt and handed Egwene a cloth. Myrelle waiting at her side with lengths of toweling over her arm. Myrelle looked angry at Samuel. "Please allow me to serve," Egwene said. Looking straight ahead, Sommelin raised her skirts to her knees. Her feet were bare. Egwene washed each foot and patted it dry, then moved to the next green, a slightly plump woman named Malind. Sheriam and the others had given her all the sitters' names. "Please allow me to serve." Malind had a pretty face with full lips and dark eyes that looked as if they liked to smile, but she was not smiling now. She was one of those who had stood, but her feet were bare too. Every sitter's feet were, all the way around the room. As Egwene washed all those feet, she wondered whether the sitters had known how many would remain sitting. Plainly, they had known some would, that this service would be required. She knew little more of how the hall of the tower worked than had been in that novice lecture. For all practical purposes, she knew nothing. All she could do was go on. She washed and dried the last foot. It belonged to Janya, who was frowning as if thinking of something else entirely. At least she had stood, and dropping the cloth in the wash basin, returned to her place at the foot of the rows and knelt. "Please allow me to serve." One more chance. Once again, Delana was first to rise, but Sommelin was right behind her this time. No one sprang to her feet, yet one by one they stood, until only Lelaine and Romanda remained sitting, looking at each other, not Egwene. Finally, Lelaine gave the ghost of a shrug, pulled up her bodice unhurriedly, and rose. Romanda turned her head and looked at Egwene. She stared so long that Egwene became conscious of the sweat running down between her breasts and along her ribs. At last, in stately slowness, Romanda reclothed herself and joined the others. Egwene heard a gasp of relief from behind her, where Sheriam and the others were waiting. It was not over, of course. Romanda and Lelaine came together to lead her up to the yellow-painted chair. She stood before it while they pulled up her bodice and draped the stole of the Amerlin seat around her shoulders, while they and all the sitters said, "You are raised to the Amerlin seat in the glory of the light, that the White Tower may endure forever. Egwene Alvir, the keeper of the seals, the flame of Tarvalin, the Amerlin seat." Lelaine removed Egwene's great serpent ring from her left hand and gave it to Romanda, who slipped it onto Egwene's right. "May the light illumine the Amerlin seat and the White Tower." Egwene laughed. Romanda blinked. Lelaine gave a start, and they were not the only ones. "I just remembered something," she said, then added, "daughters." That was what the Amerlin called Aes Sedai. What she had remembered was what came next. She could not help thinking it was payment for easing her way through Televan Riad. Egwene Alvir, the keeper of the seals, the flame of Tarvalin, the Amerlin seat, managed to sit in that hard wooden chair without letting herself down gingerly and without wincing. She considered both triumphs of will. Sheriam and Myrelle and Morven glided forward. Whoever had gasped, there was no telling now by their serene faces, and the sitters formed a line behind them, stretching toward the door. It was done in order of age, with Romanda at the very end. Sheriam spread her skirts in a deep curtsy. "Please allow me to serve, Mother." "You may serve the tower," Egwene replied as gravely as she could. Sheriam kissed her ring and stepped aside as Myrelle made her curtsy. Down the line it went. There were some surprises in the arrangements. None of the sitters were really young, despite their Aes Sedai faces, but pale-haired Delana, who Egwene had thought must be nearly as old as Romanda, stood less than halfway down the line, while Elaine and Janya...
Wait, what are you talking about?
...without a touch of gray in their dark hair.
Oh, you're bringing fishing rods to your car.
...with absolutely no expression.
You're going camping or something? Or just fishing?
...by a rear door without another word. Normally there would have been more, but the rest of the ceremony was to wait one morning. At last Egwene was alone with the three women who had pledged for her. She was still not sure of what that meant. Myrelle went to let in the other three as Egwene stood. What would have happened if Romanda Supposedly, there would have been one more chance, one more round of foot washing and asking to be allowed to serve.
That's cool.
But she was sure that if Romanda had voted no the second time, she would have the third. Then she very probably would have been raised Amelin herself in a few days. Sherian replied. Her or Lelaine. That wasn't what I meant, Egwene said. What would have happened to me? Would I just have gone back to being a captive? Anaya and the others came hurrying up, smiling, and Myrell began helping Egwene out of the banded white dress and into a pale green silk that she would wear only long enough to reach her bed.
I missed something in that message, like chewing through something, fishing poles being chewed through. What the hell? And that's why I need a second monitor. Sadly, the messages show up just for a second for me. Oh, the cat.
Sheriam looked straight into Egwene's eyes as if to impress her words. We surely would have been exiled. Myrell and Morven and I for certain, since we stood pledge for you, and likely Carlinia and Bayanin and Anaya as well. Her smile was abrupt, but it did not happen that way. The new Amelin is supposed to spend her first night in contemplation and prayer, but once Myrell finishes with those buttons, it might be best if we gave at least a little of it to telling you how matters stand in Saladar. They were all looking at her. Myrell was behind her, doing up the last button, but she could feel the woman's eyes. Yes, I think that might be best. Chapter 36. The Amerlin is raised. Egwene raised her head from the pillows and looked around. For a moment surprised to find herself in a canopied bed in a large room.
I guess I'll have to see it, because I can't concentrate enough on how that would work.
Chisa had been introduced to her last night as her maid, the Amerlin's maid. A covered tray already.
I never went fishing in my life.
Table beneath the mirror with a silver-work frame. The smell of hot bread and stewed pears drifted in the air. Anaya had prepared the room for Egwene's arrival. The furnishings still did not match, but they were the best Saladar had to offer. From the padded armchair upholstered in green silk to the stand mirror in the corner with all its gilding intact, to the ornately carved wardrobe where her belongings now hung. Unfortunately, Anaya's taste seemed to run heavily to frothy lace and frills. Both thickly bordered the canopy of the bed. And
I mean, fishing sounds super relaxing. Especially if you have weed with you and a few beers, you could just chill, be outdoors in a really awesome spot and just fish. And even better, you end up with food.
There had been a great deal of talk after Sheriam and the others brought her here to what they
Hopefully.
called little power, almost all of it on their side. They were not really interested in what she thought Rand was up to, or what Quirin and the others might want. There was an embassy on its way to Camelin under Mirana, who knew what to do, though they were rather vague about exactly what that was. For the most part,
One of the reasons I would consider going back to live in the US would be fishing and hunting.
For now, anyway.
That would be really amazing things to learn to do.
Embassies had been sent off to every ruler, each one named in turn, with an explanation of why he or she was absolutely vital to Saladar's cause, which it seemed everyone was. They did not quite say everything would fail if even one ruler went against them, but the emphasis they laid on everyone said it for them. Gareth Bryn was building an army.
That's awesome.
That would eventually be strong enough to prosecute her claims against Elida if it came to that.
Is there any deer hunting in upstate New York? I mean, I do recall there being tons of forested areas, even though I've only been there once.
Even some of those in the tower now. Enough that Elida would have no choice but to step down on demand. The White Cloaks were twiddling their thumbs for some reason, so Saladar was as safe as anywhere for as long as was necessary. That Loghain had been healed as well as Swan and Lena. Of course,
nice.
They would have been heels if she was here. It was just a surprise to find out she was. Came up almost in passing. Nothing to worry
I would
about.
imagine it's New York after
She
all.
stood over Egwene, who sat in the padded armchair with the others in an arc around her. The hall will argue whether to gentle him again until old age relieves us of the problem.
One of the most strict places for gun ownership in the country.
It was getting late. And Anaya said, "We need to let her sleep. Tomorrow is almost as important as tonight was, John." Abruptly, she laughed to herself softly. "Mother, tomorrow is important too. We will send Chisa to help you get ready for bed." Even after they left, going to bed was not easy. While Chisa was still undoing Egwene's dress, Roman...
Bear season? There's such a thing as a bear season?
In a firm, no-nonsense voice, and no sooner did she go than Lelaine came, as if the blue city...
Interesting.
Lelaine had her own helpful counsel, given with Egwene sitting up in bed after Chisa was gently but firmly put out of the room. It was not a bit like Romanda's, neither was much like Sheriam's, and came with a warm, even affectionate smile.
But when it comes to bears, it's not really like you're gonna eat you're gonna eat bear meat, because it's really gamey and not tasty, even though there is a Chinese dish made with bear paw.
Or that Sheriam and her little circle might try to tug in too many directions, or that they might give bad advice, but the strong implications were there.
But there is a Chinese preparation of bear paw where it's like cooked a lot over a very long time, if I'm not mistaken, and then it softens it up and they peel the cartilage back. It's like really creepy, actually. But maybe it tastes good. I don't know.
She remembered the next morning. In one, she was Amelie, eyes to die, but without taking the oaths, and everything she did led to disaster. That wakened her bolt upright, just to get away, yet she was sure it was not a dream with meaning. It was much the same as one of her experiences inside.
I mean, bears do they're expert at storing fat, so it's not surprising, I guess. But now that I think about it, it could very well be that it depends on when you get the bear. Like if you kill a bear immediately after he's done with hibernation, then he's had 6 months to lose all that fat. So it could be a lot different. Yeah, especially with animals that hibernate, that store fat for a long period. So they go super fat, then they sleep for a bunch of months, and then they burn through that fat to survive hibernation. So they could be like very fatty or barely any fat left on them, depending on before or after hibernation. Never thought about that, actually. It's interesting.
The last thing in my mind. Scrambling stiffly from the bed, Egwene stretched before pulling off her sweaty shift. She could not wait until she had worked long enough with the power to stop sweating. "I'll wear the blue silk with the white morning stars along the neckline." She noticed Chisa very carefully not looking as the woman handed her a fresh shift. The effects of meeting her toe had faded somewhat, but she still appeared faintly bruised. "I had an accident before I got here," she said, hurriedly thrusting her head through the new shift. Chisa nodded in sudden understanding. "Horses are wicked, untrustworthy beasts. You'll never get me on one, Mother. A good, sturdy cart is never so much safer. If I fell off a horse like that, I'd never let on to a soul. Nildra would say such things, and...
Well, you can make rugs out of them, at least.
Never believe the things some women can say the moment your back is turned.
So that's something you could do with bears that you hunt.
But that's what I do. Holding the wardrobe door open, she glanced sideways at Egwene to see whether she understood. Egwene smiled at her. "People aren't low or high," she said gravely. Chisa beamed for an instant before...
You could taxidermy them and stick them on the wall.
But she was the Amerlinseat's maid, and her loyalty was to the Amerlinseat. And she was right about today's importance, too.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Despite Tisa's murmurs to herself about how
Also,
food always
bearskin blanket
warm milk with honey and
to keep you
spices
warm in the
soft
winter or
and
something.
settling a nervous stomach, Egwene scrubbed her teeth and washed her hair. Let Tisa take a few licks.
Otherwise, there's not really much you can do with the dead bear, is there?
Get the blue silk over her head. Settling the 7-striped stole on her shoulders, she paused to look in the stand mirror. Stole or no stole, she did not look very much like the armor in seat. Why, this is no dream. In the large room below, the tables stood as empty as they had in the night. Only the sitters were there, wearing their shawls and clustered according to Acha, and Sheriam standing alone. They quieted as Egwene descended the stairs.
That's true.
When she reached the bottom, Romanda and Lelaine eyed her sharply. Then,
And if I'm not mistaken, black bears are the one who don't respond very well to bear mace. So if you encounter one of them, well, I suppose if you go hunt them, then you have ways to guarantee that you're safe, like a tree stand or something.
There was silence outside, utter stillness. Egwene plucked her handkerchief from her sleeve and patted her face. None of them sweated a drop. Sheriam came to stand beside her. It will go well, she said softly.
It doesn't sound like a great situation.
That was another thing they had gone over in detail last night. Egwene had a speech to deliver this morning. Egwene nodded. It was strange. Her stomach should have been turning over, her knees shaking. They were not, and she could not understand. There is no need to be anxious, Sheriam said. She sounded as if she thought Egwene was and meant to soothe her. But before she could open her mouth again, Romanda spoke loudly.
It is time.
In a rustle of skirts, the sitters lined up according to age, with Romanda in the lead this time, and marched outside.
I wouldn't like to be in that situation.
Still no daughters? Maybe.
And mace is not a guarantee that you're gonna survive either.
Silence still. Then Romanda's voice, too loud for nature. We have an Amerlin seat.
But I guess it's still better than nothing.
She would not have expected until later in the day. As her foot left the stoop, it landed on a platform woven of air. The lines of sitters stretched out to either side of her, each sitter glowing with the light of Saidar. Egwene Aldir, Romanda intoned, her voice carried by weaves of the power. The Watcher of the Seals, the Flame of Tarvalin, the Amerlin seat. They lifted her high as Romanda spoke, raising the Amerlin in truth, until she stood just below the thatched roof, standing on thin air, it would seem to any but a woman who could channel. There were plenty to see her outlined by the rising sun. A second weave made the light into a shimmering weave around her. Men and women packed the street. The crowd disappeared around corners. Every doorway was filled, every window, every rooftop, except that of the little tower itself. A roar erupted that very nearly drowned out Romanda. Waves of cheering that rolled across.
Yeah, you don't want to fuck with
scanned the crowd, searching for
moms in general in nature.
An age seemed to pass before there was quiet enough for her to speak. The weave that had carried Romanda's voice shifted to her. They had prepared her speech, Sheriam and the others. A weighty exhortation she might have been able to deliver without blushing if she was twice her age, or better yet, 3 times. She had made a few changes on her own. We are gathered together in a quest for truth and justice that will not end until the false Amerlin Elida is removed from the place she usurped. The only change in that was...
I mean, if the bears aren't particularly hungry, then I guess they would rather avoid you, because what's the point in messing with humans if they don't have to?
As I know you will not. And that was quite enough exhortation. In any case, she had no intention of remaining up here long enough to repeat everything they wanted said. It all amounted to what she already had said anyway. As my keeper of the chronicles, I name Sheriam Bayanar. That produced a much smaller chair. A keeper was not an Amerlin after all. Egwene glanced down, waiting until she saw Sheriam hurry outside, still draping her shoulders with the stole of the keeper, blue to show she had been raised from the blue Aja. It had been decided not to make a copy of the Armelin staff, topped with the golden flame that the keeper carried, until the true staff was recovered from the White Tower. They would have to do without. Sheriam had been expecting a much longer wait, and she looked at Egwene with open exasperation. In the lines of sitters, Romanda and Lelaine wore no expression at all. Each had had her own very strong suggestion for keeper, and, needless to say, neither had been Sheriam. Egwene drew breath and turned back to the waiting crowd. In honor of this day, I hereby decree that...
Sorry, dude, I couldn't read that message.
...are absolved of penances
Like I said, the messages pop up for a second for me. So usually short messages are easier for me to read on this in the 1 second that they're up. And I apologize if I don't respond to everything, because it is difficult to do that while hunting. But don't worry about it. You could send messages. It doesn't affect my hunting that much. Thank you.
Questioning silence greeted that, with here and there a murmur. It was not according to custom at all, far from it. But it was said, and a good thing Morvrin had happened to mention Theodrin and Phaolane. Time to return to what they had written out for her.
Oh yeah, I need to pee.
This a day of feasting and celebration. Let no work be done but what is necessary for enjoyment. May the light shine on you all, and the Creator's hand shelter you. That last was swallowed by a tumultuous roar that overwhelmed the weave carrying her words. Some people began dancing in the street right there and then.
Get back. And I'll take a shot of whiskey. Cheers. Yep, sorry for not waiting for you though.
Perhaps a trifle more quickly than it had risen. The sitters were staring at her when she stepped off, and the glow of Sa'idar began winking out among them almost before she touched the ground. Sheriam darted up to take Egwene's arm, smiling at the stone-faced sitters. I must show the Armelin her study. Forgive me. Egwene would not exactly have said Sheriam hustled her inside, but then again, she would not exactly have said she did not. She did not think Sheriam would actually try to drag her, but it seemed best to gather her skirts with her free hand and take longer strides so as not to wind out. Her study at the back of the waiting room turned out to be somewhat smaller than her bedroom, with 2 windows, a writing table, a straight-backed chair behind it, and 2 more in front. Nothing else. The beetle-riddled wall panels had been waxed to a dull shine, but the tabletop was quite bare. There was a piece of flowered carpet on the floor. Forgive me if I was abrupt, Mother, Sheriam said, releasing her arm. But I thought we should speak privately before you spoke to any of the sitters. They all had a hand in writing your speech, and I know I made a few changes, Egwene said with a bright smile. But I felt such a mudgeon standing up there with all that to say.
Uh-oh.
All one had a hand? No wonder it had sounded like a pompous old woman who could not stop talking. She almost laughed. Anyway, I said what had to be said, the heart of it.
That
His item
sucks.
must be removed, and I will lead them to do it. Yes, Sherian said slowly. But there might be a few...
But it takes a lot of getting used to not panic.
Theodrin and Phaelane
I died plenty of times in this place. So many times.
But Nynaeve still can't light a candle unless she yanks her braided people first. That was exactly the point I wished to raise, Amanda said, coming in without knocking. Mother, she added after a distinct pause. Lelaine shut the door behind them, nearly in the faces of several others.
Yep.
It seemed necessary.
You know what? And it's not even really like
I thought of it last night.
like it's hard. Getting out of a box is super easy. The problem is that when it happens, adrenaline starts kicking in, and then you panic. Your heartbeat goes like fucking crazy, and you can't really focus on what exactly you should be doing. And then you start making mistakes and forgetting which order you have to take care of things with, and yeah, that's the main problem. So getting pummeled a lot and losing the reflex to panic is huge.
Lelaine began sharply, giving her a blue-fringed shawl a jerk, then stopped. It was so.
I recommend everybody go to test server and get themselves in the most dangerous situations they can think of, just to practice.
To keep them accepted, or whatever Theodrin and Phaelane were in their cases, but the hall could not erase memories, and it would not stop everyone knowing they had gone...
So it's good to lose that, because panicking doesn't make anything better, it just makes it worse.
I hope for that, Amanda said in a tight voice.
The more relaxed you are, the higher the likelihood that you'll actually know what to do to get out of that situation.
Going against law can have unfortunate ones, Elaine said bluntly, tacking on a belated mother.
And I'm not going to say that I don't panic anymore, I still do.
Being raised eye to eye were set in law through...
Like when I'm trapped, I go into hyper-focus mode, obviously.
Otherwise, Amelin did not jump into fights with the hall when they could be avoided. Oh, I will consult in the future, Egwene told them earnestly. But it did seem the right thing to do. Please, would you excuse me now? I really do need to speak with the keeper. They practically quivered. Their curtsies were slight, their parting words perfectly correct so far as the words went, but muttered in Amanda's case, and in Lelaine...
Foods are massive, and in my case also mana shield potions.
You handled that very well, Sheriam said when they were gone. She sounded surprised, but you must remember the hall can make problems for any armor. One reason I am your keeper is so that I can advise you and keep you away from that sort of problem. You should ask me about any decrees you want to make. And if I'm not at hand, Myrell and Warbin and the others, we are here to help you. I understand, Sheriam. I promise to listen carefully to whatever you say. I'd like to see Nynaeve and Elaine, if that is possible. It should be, Sheriam said, smiling, though I may have to pull Nynaeve away from a yellow physically. Swan is coming to teach you about the etiquette of being armorless. There is a great deal of it to learn, but I'll tell her to come a little later. Egwene stared at the door after Sheriam had gone. Then she turned and stared at the table. Absolutely bare. Not a report to be read, no records to study, not so much as pen and ink to write a note, much less a decree. And Swan coming to teach her etiquette? When a timid tap came at the door, she was still standing there. Come, she said, wondering whether it was Swan or perhaps a servant with a snack of honey cakes, already cut into suitably small pieces. Nynaeve poked her head in hesitantly, then was pushed into the room by Elaine. Side by side, they made perfect, deep curtsies, spreading white banded skirts wide and murmuring, "Mother, please don't," Egwene said. Actually, it was more of a wail. "You're the only two friends I have, and if you start..." Like she was almost ready to cry. Elaine reached her first by a hair, throwing her arms around her. Nynaeve was silent, fiddling nervously with a slim silver bracelet, but not Elaine. "We're still your friends, Egwene, but you are the Amelin seat. Like, remember I told you one day you'd be the Amelin when I was..." Elaine grimaced thickly. "Well, in any case, you are. We can't just walk up to the Amelin and say, 'Egwene, does this dress make me look fat?' It would not be proper." "Yes, it would," Egwene said stoutly.
I hope the audiobook isn't coming through because it's so cringe.
When we're alone, I want you to tell me a dress makes me look fat, or whatever you want. Smiling at Nynaeve, she tugged the woman's
Good, good.
blade gently. Nynaeve gave
It's the Wheel of Time, and it's a
if you feel
very quote-unquote classic fantasy novel that I hate and I'm suffering from, but I want to finish it
why are you still in
just so I could ask my friends
by now?
what the fuck is good about this book series.
Must be some sort of mistake and dragged me off. She said she wasn't going to waste
Not a very good use of my time, honestly, but
the sounds of it
might as well.
rise outside, a general hum just loud enough to penetrate the stone walls, and a faint purr of music. Well, it was no mistake, Egwene said. Miss Sowell's turn? Well, she was not going to ask now. Nynaeve was not happy about it, and Egwene wanted this to be as happy an occasion as it could. Dragging the chair from behind the table, she saw two plump patchwork cushions on the seat and smiled. She said, "We are going to sit here and talk, and then I will help you find the two best dresses in Saladar. Tell me about these discoveries of yours. Anaya mentioned them, and Sheriam, but I could not make them hold still long enough to give me any details."
Yeah, I did the same with the resolution of Tibia.
Claire paused in the act of sitting and exchanged glances.
Having a much larger tibia window is nice, but also annoying.
Healing Swan and Lyanna. Nynaeve repeated 3 times, rather anxiously, that healing Loghain had been an accident, and Elaine's work with Tyrion Griel. Those were remarkable feats, especially Nynaeve's, but there was only so much.
But if your monitor is large enough, then it's not that tiny anymore.
How marvelous what they had done was, and how much she envied them. Trying to demonstrate did not last long. Egwene had no real feel for healing, especially not this complicated tapestry Nynaeve wove without thought. And though she had an affinity for metals and very good strength in both fire and earth, Elaine lost her almost immediately. Of course, they wanted to know what life was like among the Aiel. From the startled blinks and shocked laughs, abruptly cut off, she was not sure they believed everything she told them, and she certainly did not tell everything. The Aiel led naturally into Rand. Both women stared all through her rendition of his meeting with the Aes Sedai. They agreed that he was wading waters deeper than he knew and needed someone to guide him before he stepped into a hole. Elaine thought Min might help with that once the embassy reached Camelin. This was the first Egwene knew Min was with it, though it had been in Saladar, though in truth Elaine seemed rather half-hearted, and she muttered something truly peculiar, as if it were a truth she did not like hearing. Min is a better woman than I am. For some reason, that got a sympathetic look from Nynaeve. I wish I were there, Elaine went on in a stronger voice. To guide him, I mean. She looked from Egwene to Nynaeve, red touching her cheeks. Well, that too. Nynaeve and Egwene began laughing so hard they nearly fell out of their chairs, and Elaine joined in almost immediately. There's one good thing to tell, Elaine, Egwene said breathlessly, still trying to recover. Then she realized exactly what she was going to say and why. Light, what a mire she had stepped into, and while laughing. I'm sorry about your mother, Elaine. You don't know how I wished I could offer my condolences before this. Elaine looked confused, as well she might. The point is, Rand means to give you the Lion Throne and the Sun Throne. To her surprise, Elaine sat up very straight. He does, doesn't he? She said in a cool, flat voice. He intends to give them to me. Her chin rose slightly. I have some claim to the Sun Throne, and if I choose to make it, I will do so in my own right. As for the Lion Throne, Randall Thor has no right, none, to give me what is mine already. I'm sure he didn't mean it that way, Egwene protested. Did he? He loves you, Elaine. I know he does. If only it were that simple, Elaine muttered, whatever that was supposed to mean. Nynaeve sniffed. Men always say they didn't mean it that way. You would think they spoke a different language. When I put my hands on him again, Elaine said firmly, I will teach him to speak the right language. Give me. It was all Egwene could do not to laugh again. The next time Elaine laid hands on Rand, he would be too busy hunting a secluded spot to teach him anything. This was very like old times. Now your Aes Sedai, you can go to him any time you want. Nobody can stop you. A quick look passed between the pair. The hall isn't letting anyone just pick up and leave, Nynaeve said. And even if she could, we found something I think is more important. Elaine nodded vigorously. I think so too. I'll admit, the first thought I had when I heard you announced Amerlin was that now maybe Nynaeve and I could go find it. Well, the second. The first was a sort of stunned joy. Egwene blinked in confusion. You found something? But now you need to find it. Leaning forward in their chairs, they answered eagerly and almost on top of one another. We found it, Elaine said, but only in Teleran Riad. We used need, Nynaeve added. We certainly needed something. It's a bowl, Elaine continued. A Tyran Griot, and I think it might be strong enough to change the weather. Only the bowl is somewhere in Ibu Dar, in an awful, tangled warren of streets with no signs or anything to help. The hall sent a letter to Merilil, but she'll never find it. Especially since she is supposed to be busy convincing Queen Tylan that the real White Tower is here. We told them it needed a man in the channeling, Nynaeve sighed. Of course, that was before Logain, though I don't think they would trust him. It doesn't really need a man.
10.2, finally.
We just wanted to make them believe they needed Rand.
No.
I don't know how many women it does need. Maybe a full circle of 13. Elaine says it's very powerful, Egwene. It could make the weather right again. I'd welcome that, just to get my weather sense straight again. The bowl can make it right, Egwene. Elaine exchanged happy looks with Nynaeve. All you have to do is send us to Ibu Dar. The flood receded, and Egwene leaned back in her chair. I will do what I can. Maybe there'll be no objection now that your eyes are dying. She had the feeling there would be, though. Raising them had seemed such a bold stroke that she was beginning to believe it was not quite so simple. But you can, Elaine said incredulously. You are the Amerlin Seed, Egwene. You give a command and Aes Sedai jump. She flashed a quick grin. Say jump and I'll prove it. Grimacing, Egwene shifted on the cushions. I'm the Amerlin, but... Elaine, Sheriam doesn't have to think very hard to recall a novice named Egwene, staring goggle-eyed at everything and being sent to rake the new garden walks for eating apples after bedtime. She means to lead me by the hand, or maybe push me to the scruff of my neck. Amanda and Lelaine both wanted to be Amerlin, and they see that novice too.
I'm not high enough, but I also don't want to overdo it. I'll build a tolerance and then I won't be able to get high again.
But Elaine was pure indignation. You can't let them get away with trying to bully you. You are the Amerlin. The Amerlin tells the hall what to do, not the other way around. You have to stand up and make them see the Amerlin seat.
I'll only be able to do another one in like 44 minutes.
Had it only been last night that she was so defiant about being bullied? That will take a little time. You see, I finally understood why they chose me. Part is for Rand, I think. Maybe they believe he'll be more amenable if he sees me wearing the stole. The other part is because they remember that novice. A woman, no, a girl, who's so used to doing as she's told that there will be no trouble making her do as they want. She fingered the striped stole around her neck. Well, whatever their reasons, they chose me, Amerlin, and since they did, I mean to be Amerlin, but I have to be careful at first.
Honestly, what's good about my vape is that when I need to clean it, when it starts getting clogged, then what comes out of it from the cooling body or the cooling section is just condensed dab, essentially.
How the Amerlin seat and the hall of the tower actually work together. Then all of Elaine's training to be queen.
So the byproduct I have to clean out of my vape from all the THC vapor is basically dab. But what I do is, since I don't dab and I definitely don't have the lungs for it, I just eat it. I just roll it into a ball and swallow it. It's good enough. And it's definitely decarbolized, which usually you would want to pass your weed through something at a relatively high temperature to convert a bunch of the THCA to THC.
That made Egwene smile wholeheartedly. It was not a question, but a firm statement of fact. No, I am not. She had listened to a number of Moiraine's lectures to Rand about the Game of Houses. Back then, she had thought the game absurd and worse than underhanded. Now she hoped she could remember everything she had heard. The Aiel always said, use the weapons you have. It may help that they're trying to fit me for 3 different leashes. I can pretend to be pulled by one or another, depending on which is closest to what I want to do. Once in a while, I can just do what I want, the way I did raising you two, but not very often yet. Squaring her shoulders, she met their gazes levelly. I would like to say I raised you because you deserved it.
Wait, what?
The truth is, I did it because you're my friends, and because I hope, as full sisters, you can help me. I certainly don't know who else I can trust except you two. I will send you to Ibudar as soon as I can, but before and after, you are who I can discuss things with. I know you will tell me the truth. That trip to Ibudar may not take as long as you might think. You two have made all sorts of discoveries, so I hear. But if I can puzzle a few things out, I may have one of my own. That will be wonderful, Elaine said, but she sounded almost absent-minded. Chapter 37. When the Battle Begins.
Have fun.
The silence was very peculiar, and Egwene did not understand at all. Elaine looked at Nynaeve, then they both looked at Nynaeve's slim silver bracelet. Nynaeve shifted her gaze to Egwene, wide-eyed, and quickly put it on the floor. I have a confession, she said in a near whisper. Her voice never rose, but words spilled out in a rush. I captured Mogedion. Without raising her eyes, she lifted her wrist with a bracelet. This is an Aedan. We're holding a prisoner, and nobody knows, except Swan and Lyanna and Birgitte. And now you. We had to, Elaine said, leaning forward urgently. They'd have executed her, Egwene. I know she deserves it, but her head is full of knowledge, things we hardly dream of. That's where all of our discoveries came from. Except Nynaeve's healing Swan and Lyanna and Logain, and my Tyron Griel. They would have killed her without waiting to learn anything. Questions whirled through Egwene's head dizzyingly. They had captured one of the Forsaken? How? Elaine had made an Aedan? Egwene shivered, barely able to look at the thing. It looked nothing like the Aedan she knew far too well. Even with that, how had they managed to keep one of the Forsaken hidden among so many Aes Sedai? One of the Forsaken prisoner, not tried and executed. As suspicious as Rand had become, if he ever discovered that, he would never trust Elaine again. Bring her here, she managed to say hollowly. Nynaeve bounced out of a chair and ran. The noises of celebration, laughter, and music and song swelled for a moment before the door banged shut behind her. Egwene rubbed her temples. One of the Forsaken. That is quite a secret to keep. Elaine's cheeks colored, wide under the light. Of course. Elaine, I have no intention of asking about anybody I'm not supposed to know about. The golden-haired woman actually jumped. I may be able to talk. Later. Tomorrow, maybe. Egwene, you have to promise me you won't say anything, not to anybody, unless I say so, no matter what you see. If that's what you want. Egwene did not understand why the other woman was so agitated. Not really. Elaine had a secret that Egwene shared, only Egwene had found out by accident. And ever since, they had both been pretending it was still Elaine's secret alone. She had met with Birgitte, the hero out of legend, in Teleran Riad. Maybe she still did. Wait, that was what Nynaeve had said. Birgitte knew about Mogedion. Did she mean the woman waiting in Teleran Riad for Horn of Valir to call her back? Nynaeve knew the secret that Elaine had refused to admit to Egwene even when she was caught out? No, this was not going to turn into a round of accusations and denials. Elaine, I am the Armorman, really the Armorman, and I already have plans. The wise ones who channel handle a good many of their weaves differently from Aes Sedai. Elaine already knew about the wise ones, though, come to think of it, Egwene did not know whether the Aes Sedai did. The other Aes Sedai now. Sometimes what they do is more complicated or more crude, but at times it's simpler than we were taught in the Tower and works just as well. You want Aes Sedai to study with the Aiel? Elaine's mouth quirked in amusement. Egwene, they'll never agree to that. Not if you live 1,000 years. I suppose they'll want to test Aiel girls for novices when they find out, though. Shifting on her cushions, Egwene hesitated. Aes Sedai studying with the wise ones as apprentices? Would never happen. But Romanda and Lelaine especially might benefit from a little J'eto. And Sheriam and Myrell, and she found a more comfortable way to sit and gave up her fancies. I doubt the wise ones will agree to Aiel girls becoming novices. They might have once, possibly, but certainly not now. Now it would be as much as Egwene could expect for them to speak civilly to Aes Sedai. I thought some sort of association. Elaine, there are fewer than 1,000 Aes Sedai. If you include those who remain in the Waste, I think there are more wise ones who can channel than there are Aes Sedai. Maybe many more. Anyway, they don't miss a one with a spark born in them. How many women had died on this side of the Dragon Wall because they suddenly could channel, maybe without realizing what they were doing at all, and had no one to teach them? I want to bring in more women. What about women who can learn, but no Aes Sedai found them before they were thought too old for novices? I say if she wants to learn, let her try, even if she's 40 or 50 or her grandchildren have grandchildren. Elaine hugged herself, laughing. Oh, Egwene, the Accepted will just love teaching those novice classes. They'll have to learn how, Egwene said firmly. She did not see the problem. Aes Sedai had always said you could be too old for a novice, but if you wanted to learn, they had changed their minds partway already. In the crowd, she had seen faces older than Nynaeve's above novice white. The Tower has always been severe about excluding people, Elaine. If you aren't strong enough, you're put out. Refuse to take a test, and you're sent away. Fail a test, and out. They should be allowed to stay if they want. But the tests are to make sure you're strong enough, Elaine protested. Not just in the one power, in yourself. Surely you don't want Aes Sedai who will break the first time they come under pressure, or Aes Sedai who can barely channel? Egwene sniffed. Sorilea would have been put out of the tower without ever being tested for Accepted. Maybe they can't be Aes Sedai, but that doesn't mean they are useless. After all, they're already trusted to use the power with at least some discretion, or they wouldn't be sent off into the world. My dream is for every woman who can channel to be connected to the tower somehow. Every last one. The Windfinders? Elaine winced when Egwene nodded. You didn't betray them, Elaine. I can't believe they kept their secret as long as they did. Elaine sighed heavily. Well, what's done is done. You can't put honey back in the comb. But if your Aiel gets special protection, the Sea Folk should too. Let the Windfinders teach their girls. No Sea Folk women bundled off by Aes Sedai, whatever they will. Done. Egwene spat on the palm and held out her hand, and after a moment, Elaine spat on hers and grinned as they clasped to seal the bargain. Slowly, that grin faded. Is this about Rand and his amnesty, Egwene? In part. Elaine, how could a man be so... There was no way to finish that, and no answer anyway. The other woman nodded a touch sadly in understanding, or agreement, or both. The door opened, and a sturdy woman in dark wool appeared, a silver tray in her hands with 3 silver cups and a long-necked silver wine pitcher. Her face was worn, a farm wife's face, but her dark eyes glittered as she studied Egwene and Elaine with a shifting gaze. Egwene had just a moment to feel surprised that the woman wore a close-fitting silver necklace despite her drab dress, and then Nynaeve entered behind her, shutting the door. She must have run like the wind because she had found time to exchange the Accepted dress for a dark blue silk embroidered with golden scrolls around the neckline and hem. It was not nearly so low-cut as what Berylane wore, but still considerably lower than Egwene expected to see on Nynaeve. This is Marrigan, Nynaeve said, drawing her braid over her shoulder in a practiced motion. Her great serpent ring shone golden on her right hand. Egwene started to ask why she emphasized the name so, then abruptly realized that Marrigan's necklace was a match for the bracelet on Nynaeve's wrist. She could not help staring. The woman certainly did not look anything like she expected one of the Forsaken to look. She said as much, and Nynaeve laughed. Watch, Egwene. She did more than watch. She nearly leaped out of her chair, and she did embrace Sa'idar. As soon as Nynaeve spoke, the glow had surrounded Marika. Only for an instant, but before it faded, the woman in the plain wool dress changed completely. Actually, they were rather small changes, but they added up to a different woman, handsome rather than beautiful, but not at all worn. A woman who was proud, even regal. Only the eyes remained the same, glittering, but no matter how they shifted, Egwene could believe this woman was Gideon. How was all she said. She listened carefully as Nynaeve and Elaine explained about weaving disguises and inverting weaves, but she watched Moghedien. She was proud and full of herself, full of being herself again. Put her back, Egwene said when the explanations were done. Again, the glow of Sa'idar lasted only moments, and once it faded, there were no weaves that she could see. Moghedien was plain and worn again, a countrywoman who had led a hard life and looked older than her years. Those black eyes glittered at Egwene, filled with hate and maybe self-loathing as well. Realizing she still held Sa'idar, Egwene felt foolish for a moment. Neither Nynaeve nor Elaine had embraced the source. But then Nynaeve was wearing that bracelet. Egwene stood, never taking her gaze from Moghedien, and held out her hand. Nynaeve seemed eager to have the thing off her wrist, which Egwene could understand. Handing the bracelet over, Nynaeve said, "Put the tray on the table, Merrigan, and be on your best behavior. Egwene has been living with the Aiel." Egwene turned the silver band over in her hands and tried not to shiver. Cunning work, segmented so cleverly it almost appeared solid. She had been on the other end of an Adam once, a Shanchan device with a silver leash connecting necklace and bracelet, but still the same. Her stomach roiled as it had not facing the hall or the crowd. It stewed as though trying to make up for being still before. Deliberately, she closed the length of silver around her wrist. She had some idea of what to expect, but she still almost jumped. The other woman's emotions were laid out before her, her physical state, all gathered in one fenced-off portion of Egwene's mind. Mainly there was pulsing fear. For the self-loathing she had thought she saw swelled nearly as strongly. Moghedien did not like her present appearance. Maybe she especially did not like it after a short return to her own. Egwene thought of who it was she was looking at. One of the Forsaken. A woman whose name had been used to frighten children for centuries. A woman whose crimes deserved death 100 times over. She thought of the knowledge in that head. She made herself smile. It was not a pretty smile. She did not mean it to be, but she did not think she could have made it one if she tried. They're right. I have been living with the Aiel. So if you expect me to be as gentle as Nynaeve and Elaine, put it out of your mind. Set just one foot wrong with me, and I'll make you beg for death. Only I won't kill you. I will just find some way to make that face permanent. On the other hand, if you do more than put a foot wrong... She widened her smile until it was just showing teeth. The fear leaped so high it drowned everything else and bulged against the fence, Standing in front of the table, Mogedion clutched her skirts white knuckle tight and trembled visibly. Nynaeve and Elaine were looking at Egwene as if they had never seen her before. Light did they expect her to be polite to one of the Forsaken? So Aaliyah would stake the woman out in the sun to bring her to heel, if she did not simply slit her throat out of hand. Egwene moved closer to Mogedion. The other woman was taller, but she cowered back against the table, knocking over the wine cups on their tray and rocking the pitcher. Egwene made her voice cold. It did not have far to go. The day I detect one lie out of you is the day I execute you myself. Now, I have considered traveling from one place to another by boring a hole, so to speak, from here to there. A hole through the pattern, so there's no distance between one end and the other. How well will that work? Not at all. For you or any woman, Mogedion said, breathless and thick. The fear that boiled inside was plain on her face now. That is how men travel. The capital was plain. She was speaking of one of the lost talents. If you try, you'll be sucked into... I don't know what it is. The space between the threads of the pattern, maybe. I don't think you would live very long. I know you would never come back. Traveling, Nynaeve muttered disgustedly. We never thought of traveling. No, we didn't. Elaine sounded no more pleased with herself. I wonder what else we never thought of. Egwene ignored her. Then how? She asked softly. A quiet voice was always better than shouting. Mogedion flinched as though she had shouted anyway. You make the two places in the pattern identical. I can show you how. It takes a little effort because of the necklace, but I can... Like this, Egwene said, embracing Sa'idar, and wove clothes of spirit. This time she was not trying to touch the world of dreams, but she expected something much the same if it worked. What she got was quite different. The thin curtain she wove did not produce the shimmering effect, and it lasted only a moment before snapping together in a vertical line that was suddenly a slash of silvery blue light. The light itself widened quickly, or perhaps turned, it looked that way to her, into something. There in the middle of the floor was a doorway. Not at all the misty view she had had of Tele-Rariard from her tent. A doorway opening onto a sun-blasted land that made the worst of the drought here look lush. Stone spires and sharp cliffs loomed over a dusty yellow clay plain, cut by fissures and dotted with a few scrub bushes that had a thorny look even at a distance. Egwene very nearly stared. That was the Aiel waste halfway between Cold Rock's Hold and the Valley of Rudian. A spot where it was very unlikely there would be anyone to see or be heard. Rand's precautions with his special room in the Sun Palace had suggested she take some too, but she had only hoped to reach it, and she had been sure it would be seen through a shimmering curtain. Light, Elaine breathed. Do you know what you've done, Egwene? Do you? I think I can do it. If you repeat the weave again, I know I'll remember. Remember what? Nynaeve practically wailed. How did she do it? Oh, curse this cursed luck. Elaine, kick my ankle, please. Mogedion's face had gone very still. Uncertainty rolled through the bracelet almost as heavily as fear. Reading emotions was hardly like reading words on a page, but those two were clear. Who? Mogedion licked her lips. Who taught you that? Egwene smiled as she had seen Aes Sedai smile. At least she hoped it conveyed mystery. Never be too sure I don't already know the answer, she said coolly. Remember, lie to me once. Suddenly it occurred to her how this must sound to Nynaeve and Elaine. They had captured her, held her captive in the most impossible circumstances, pried all sorts of information out of her. Turning to them, she gave a small, rueful laugh. I am sorry. I didn't mean to just take over. Why should you be sorry? Elaine wore a broad smile. You are supposed to take over, Egwene. Nynaeve gave her braid a yank, then glared at it. Nothing seems to work. Why can't I get angry? Oh, you can keep her forever for all of me. We couldn't take her to Ibudar anyway. Why can't I get angry? Oh, blood and bloody ashes. Her eyes went wide as she realized what she had said, and she clapped a hand over her mouth. Egwene glanced at Mogedion. The woman was busily setting the wine cups upright again and pouring wine with a smell of sweet spices, but something had come through the bracelet while Nynaeve was talking. Shock, perhaps? Maybe she would prefer the mistresses she knew to one who threatened death in almost her first breath. A firm knock sounded at the door, and Egwene hastily released Saidar. The opening to the waist vanished. Come. Swan took one step into the study and stopped, taking in Mogedion, the bracelet on Egwene's wrist, Nynaeve, and Elaine. Shutting the door, she made a curtsy as minimal as anything from Romanda or Lelaine. Mother, I've come to instruct you in etiquette, but if you would rather I returned later? Her eyebrows rose, calmly questioning. Go, Egwene told Mogedion. If Nynaeve and Elaine were willing to let her run loose, the Adam must limit her, if not as much as one with a leash. Fingering the bracelet, she hated the thing, but she intended to wear it day and night. She added, but keep yourself available. I'll treat trying to escape the same as a lie. Fear gushed through the Adam as Mogedion scurried out. That could be a problem. How had Nynaeve and Elaine lived with those torrents of dread? Still, that was for later. Facing Swan, she folded her arms beneath her breasts. This won't do, Swan. I know everything. Daughter. Swan tilted her head. Sometimes knowing gives no advantage whatsoever. Sometimes it only means sharing the danger. Swan, Elaine said, half shocked and half warning, and to Egwene's surprise, Swan did something she had never expected to see Swan Sanche do. She blushed. You can't expect me to become somebody else overnight, the woman muttered gruffly. Egwene suspected Nynaeve and Elaine could help with what she had to do, but if she was really going to be Amerlin, she had to do it alone. Elaine, I know you want to get out of that acceptance stress. Why don't you do that? And then see what you find out about lost talents. Nynaeve, you do the same. A look passed between them, then they glanced at Swan and rose to make perfect curtsies, respectfully murmuring, As you command, Mother. There was no evidence of any impression on Swan. She stood watching Egwene with a wry expression while they left. Egwene embraced Saidar again, briefly, to slide her chair back into place behind the table, then adjusted her stole and sat. For a long moment she regarded Swan silently. I need you, she said at last. You know what it is to be Amerlin, what the Amerlin can and cannot do. You know the sitters, how they think, what they want. I need you, and I mean to have you. Sheriam and Romanda and Lelaine may think I still wear novice white under this stole. Maybe they all do. But you are going to help me show them differently. I'm not asking you, Swan. I will have your help. All there was to do then was wait. Swan regarded her, then gave a slight shake of her head and laughed softly. They made a very bad mistake, didn't they? Of course I did first. The plump little grunter for the table turns out to be a live silver pike as long as your leg. Spreading her skirts wide, she made a deep curtsy, inclining her head. Mother, please allow me to speak. And so long as you know it's only advice, Swan. I have too many people already who think they can tie strings to my arms and legs. I won't put up with it from you. I'd as soon try tying strings to myself, Swan said dryly. You know I never really liked you. Maybe it was because I saw too much of myself in you. In that case, Egwene said in just as dry a tone, you can call me Egwene when we're alone. Now sit down and tell me why the hall is still sitting here and how I can get them moving. Swan started to pull one of the chairs over before remembering she could move it with Saidar now. They are sitting because once they move, the White Tower really is broken. As for how to get them moving, my advice... Her advice took a long time. Some of it went along lines Egwene had already thought of, and all of it seemed good. In her room in the little tower, Romanda poured mint tea for 3 other sitters, only one a yellow. The room was in the back, but the sounds of festival penetrated. Romanda ignored them studiously. These 3 had been ready to support her for the honorary seat. Voting for the girl had been as much a way to keep the lane from being raised as anything else. The lane would burn if she ever knew that. Now that Sheriam had her child Amerlin installed, these 3 were still willing to listen, especially after the business of raising accepted to the shawl by decree. That had to be Sheriam's doing. She and her little clique had hampered all 4. It had been their notion to lift Theodrin and Pheolane above the other accepted, and they had suggested it for Elaine and Nynaeve as well at one time. Frowning, she wondered what was keeping Delilah. But she began talking anyway, after sheathing the room in Sahidar against eavesdropping. Delilah would just have to catch up when she came. The important thing was that Sheriam was going to learn she had not gained as much power as she thought by snatching the job of keeper. In a house halfway across Saladar, Lelaine was serving chilled wine to 4 sitters, only one from her own blue Aja. Sahidar laced the room against listeners. The sounds of celebration.
Nice.
4 women with her had suggested she.
How many packs do you smoke a day if you smoke a cig every couple of minutes?
She had not been reluctant, but a failure would have meant Romanda being raised instead, which would have pained Lelaine as much as being exiled. How Romanda would gnash her teeth if she.
I mean, I'm gonna lie if I say that getting distracted by the messages on the stream is helpful for maximizing XP per hour, but don't worry about it.
Now she had managed to grab the keeper's stole.
If I wouldn't want to be distracted, I wouldn't stream.
Accepted to Aes Sedai by the girl's decree, Sheriam's head must have swollen to madness. As the talk went on, Lelaine began to wonder where Delilah was. She should have been there by now. Delilah sat in a room, staring at Halima perched on the edge of Delana's bed. The name Asandar was never to be used. Sometimes Delana was afraid Halima would know if she even thought it. The ward against eavesdropping was small, enclosing just the pair of them. That is madness.
Do you smoke about a pack a day, roughly? Like, give or take, you don't have to actually count them.
Supporting every faction, they will catch me out sooner or later. Everyone must take some risks. The firmness of the woman's voice belied the smile on that lush mouth. And you
I used to roll my own too.
a gentling low gain again.
It's just way cheaper.
That, or killing him. A slight grimace actually made the woman more beautiful somehow. If they ever brought him out of that house, I would attend to it myself. Delana could not imagine how, but she would not doubt the woman until she failed. What I don't understand is why you are so afraid of a man with 6 sisters shielding him from sunup to sunup. Halima's green eyes blazed as she leaped to her feet. I am not afraid, and don't you ever suggest it.
I mean, you
you
do what you gotta do. Because cigarettes, you smoke them to relax and after coffee and stuff, so it's like...
considered killing the other woman, but as always, she had a sinking certainty that
you have to smoke a certain number of them
somehow
per
Halima
day for them to
would
even
break
do
some
anything.
even if Halima could not channel herself. The worst of it was the possibility.
But yeah, I am glad that I quit cigs. So fucking happy,
Delana
dude.
could not imagine what she might do instead, but
I blame mostly them for fucking up my lungs.
she should be able to kill the woman right there, right then. Yes, Alma, she said meekly, and hated herself for it.
On the other hand,
Swan murmured, holding her
I
close.
can smoke a cig without weed, but I can't smoke weed without tobacco.
Sinking toward the horizon,
It's too harsh.
the reddish cast, but the streets outside were still raucous. You have no idea how tiring it is trying to teach that girl etiquette. She seemed to think as long as she behaves like a wisdom from back home, everything will be fine. The hall is supposed to be the women's circle or some such thing. Lelaine made sympathetic noises over her own tea. You say she was complaining about Romanda? Swan shrugged. Something about Romanda, insisting we stay here instead of marching for Tarvalin as near as I could make out. Light, the girl has a temper like a fisher bird in mating season. I almost wanted to take her by the shoulders and shake her, but of course, she does wear a stolen hat.
That is cool.
Well, once I finished...
I mean, a joint would be easier for me than a bong for sure, but even then,
Smiling inside, Swan watched Lelaine...
the smoke is a lot heavier with weed. I don't know how to explain it. It also could be what I've been conditioning myself to, because I've been smoking cigs probably longer than I've been smoking weed.
It might be true. She would never be Amerlin again herself, and she was fairly certain that trying to manipulate Egwene would be as futile as trying to manipulate herself had been, and as painful. Yet teaching an Amerlin to be Amerlin, she looked forward to that as much as she had anything in a long time. Egwene Alvear would be an Amerlin to make thrones tremble. But what about my block? Nynaeve said, and Romanda frowned at her. They were in Romanda's room in the little tower, and this was when Romanda was supposed to have her according to the schedule the Yellows had set up. The music and laughter outside seemed to irritate the Yellow. You weren't so eager earlier. I heard that you told Dagdara you were Aes Sedai too, and she could find a lake and douse her head. Heat rose in Nynaeve's face. Trust her temper to get in the way. Maybe I just realized that being Aes Sedai doesn't mean I can channel any more easily than before. Romanda sniffed. Aes Sedai. You have a long way to go for that, whatever. Very well, then. Something we haven't tried before. Jump up and down on one foot, and talk. She sat down in a carved armchair near the bed, still frowning. Gossip, I think. Talk about light things. For instance, what was it the Amerlin said Lelaine wanted to talk about? For a moment, Nynaeve stared back indignantly. Jump on one foot? That was ridiculous. Still, she was not really here about her block anyway. Lifting her skirts, she began jumping. Egwene, the Amerlin, didn't say much. Something about having to stay put in Saladar. This had better work, or Egwene was going to hear a few choice words, Amerlin or no. I think this one will work better, Sheriam, Elaine said, handing over a twisted blue and red flecked ring of what had been stone this morning. In truth, it was no different from any other she had made. They stood apart from the crowd at the mouth of a narrow alley lit by the red sun. Behind them, fiddles squealed and flutes sang. Thank you, Elaine. Sheriam tucked the Tiran grill into her belt pouch without even looking at it. Elaine had caught Sheriam in a pause from dancing, her face a little flushed beneath all that cool Aes Sedai serenity. The clear green gaze that had made Elaine's knees shake as a novice was fixed on her face. Why do I get the feeling this is not your only reason for coming to see me? Elaine grimaced, twisting the great serpent ring on her right hand. The right hand. She just had to remember she was Aes Sedai too, now. It's Egwene. The Amerlin, I guess I should say. She's worried, Sheriam, and I was hoping you could help her. You are the keeper, and I did not know who else to go to. I don't have the straight of it completely. You know how Egwene is. She wouldn't complain if her foot was cut off. It's Romanda, I think, though she did mention Lelaine. One or both have been at her, I think, about staying here in Saladar, about not moving yet because it's too dangerous. That is good advice, Sheriam said slowly. I don't know about dangerous, but that is the advice I would give her myself. Elaine spread her hands in a helpless shrug. I know. She told me you did, but she didn't say it right out, but I think she's a little afraid of those two. I know she's Amerlin now, but I think they make her feel a novice. I think she's afraid if she does what they want, even if it is good advice, they will expect her to do the same next time. I think, Sheriam, she is afraid she won't be able to say no the next time if she says yes now. And I'm afraid of it too. Sheriam, she's the Amerlin seat. She shouldn't be under Romanda's thumb or Lelaine's or anybody's. You are the only one who can help her. I do not know how, but you are. Sheriam was quiet so long that Elaine began to think the other woman was going to tell her every word was ludicrous. I will do what I can. Cherian said at last. Elaine stifled a relieved sigh before she realized it would not have mattered. Leaning forward, Egwene rested her arms along the sides of the copper tub and let Shisa's chatter flow over her as the woman scrubbed her back. She had dreamed of a real bath, but actually sitting in the soapy water, scented with a floral oil, felt strange after Aiel's wetness. She had taken her first step as Armor, marshaled her outnumbered army, and begun her attack. She remembered hearing Rourke say once that when battle began, a battle leader no longer had any real control of events. Now all she could do was wait. Even so, she said softly, I think the wise ones would be proud. Chapter 38. A Sudden Shift. The blazing sun still climbed behind him, and Matt was glad his broad-brimmed hat gave a little shade on his face. This Altauran forest was winter bare and more than winter brown, with pines and leatherleafs and other evergreens looking sere, and oak and ash and sweet gum naked. Noon yet to come, the worst heat beyond that, and already the day was like riding through an oven. His coat was slung atop his saddlebag.
2 more laps and I'm done, I think.
Pip's hooves crunched on dead ferns and fallen leaves thick atop the leaf mold, and the band moved in a crackle from the forest floor. Few birds appeared, quick flashes between the branches, and not a squirrel. There were flies, though, and biteyes, as if this were the heart of summer instead of less than a month of the Feast of Lights. No different from what he had seen back on the Aranine, really. But finding it here, too, made him uneasy. Was the whole world really burning up? Avienda strode along beside Pips with her bundle on her back, apparently unconcerned by dying trees or biting flies, and making considerably less noise than the horse despite her skirts. Her eyes scanned the surrounding trees as though she did not trust the band's scouts and flankers to keep them out of an ambush. She had not accepted a ride once, which he had not expected anyway, seeing how Aiel felt about riding, but she had made no trouble either, unless sharpening her knife every time they halted could be considered provocative. There had been the incident with Oliver, of course. Riding the high-stepping gray gelding Matt had found him among the remounts, Oliver kept a wary eye on her. He had tried to stick his belt knife in her the second night, shouting about Aiel killing his father. Of course, she only took it away from him, but even after Matt cuffed him and tried to explain the difference between Shaido and other Aiel, something Matt was not all that sure he understood himself, Oliver glared at her constantly. He did not like Aiel. For Avienda's part, Oliver seemed to make her uneasy, which Matt did not understand at all. The trees stood tall enough to have allowed a breeze to stir under the sparse canopy overhead, but the Red Hand banner hung limp, and so did the two he had dug out once Rand put them through that gateway into a night-covered meadow, a dragon banner, the red and gold shape hidden in white folds, and one of those the band called Althor's banner, the ancient Aes Sedai symbol also thankfully wrapped inside. A grizzled senior bannerman had the Red Hand, a fellow with narrow eyes and more scars than Daerid, who insisted on actually carrying the banner a part of each day, which few bannermen did. Talmanas and Daerid had supplied second squad men for the other two, fresh-faced young men who had shown themselves steady enough for a little responsibility. 3 days they had come across Altara, 3 days in forest without sight of a single dragon swarm, or anyone else for that matter, and Matt hoped to stretch their loneliness at least through this 4th before reaching Saladar. Aside from Aes Sedai, there was the problem of how to keep Avienda from Elaine's throat. He had few doubts why she kept sharpening that knife. The edge glittered like gemstones. He was very much afraid he was going to end taking the Aiel woman to Caemlyn under guard, the bloody daughter-heir demanding he hang her every step of the way. Rand and his bloody women. In Matt's view, anything that slowed the band and kept him from the stew he expected in Saladar was to the good. Halting early and marching late helped. So did the supply wagons at the rear, slow as they were in the forest. But the band could ride only so slowly. All too soon, Vanin was sure to find something. As if thinking his name had been a summons, the fat scout appeared through the trees ahead with 4 riders. He had gone out before dawn with 6. Matt raised a clenched fist, signaling a halt, and murmurs passed down the column. His first order on leaving the gateway had been no drums, no trumpets, no flutes, and no bloody singing. And if there had been a few glum faces in the beginning, after the first day in that wooded terrain where you could never see clearly more than 100 paces, and seldom so far, no one objected at all. Resting his spear across his saddle, Matt waited until Vannin pulled up and casually knuckled his forehead. You found them? The balding man leaned to one side in his saddle, spit through a gap in his teeth. He was sweating so much he looked to be melting. I found them. 8 or 10 mile west. There's warders in those woods. I saw one take Mar. Just came out nothing in one of those cloaks and swept him out of the saddle. Roughed him considerably, but didn't kill him, though. I expect Ladwin didn't show up for the same reason. So, they know we're here. Matt breathed heavily through his nose. He did not expect either man would hold back anything from warders, much less Aes Sedai. But then the Aes Sedai had to know sooner or later. He had just wanted it to be later. He slapped at a blue fly, but it buzzed away, leaving a spot of blood on his wrist.
Ow.
How many? Vannin spat again. More than I ever figured to see. I got into the village afoot, and there was Aes Sedai faces all over. 200-300 maybe 4. I didn't want to be too obvious counting. Before that shot had time to settle, the man delivered another. They got an army, too, camped to the north, mainly. More than you got, maybe twice as many. Talmanas and Nalisian and Daerid had ridden up during that, sweating and swatting flies and bite-me's. Did you hear? Matt asked, and they nodded soberly. His battle luck was all very well, yet being outnumbered 2 to 1, with hundreds of Aes Sedai thrown into the bargain, could strain any luck. We aren't here to fight, he reminded them, but their long faces remained. For that matter, the remark did not make him feel better either. What counted was whether the Aes Sedai wanted this army of theirs fight. Prepare the band to be attacked, he ordered. Clear as much ground as you can and use the logs to make barricades. Talmanas grimaced nearly as hard as Nalisian. They liked to be in the saddle and moving when they fought. Think! There may be warders watching us right now. He was surprised to see Vannin nod and glance off to their right in a significant way. If they see us readying to defend, then plainly we don't mean to attack. It might make them decide to leave us alone, and if it doesn't, at least we're ready. That got through to Talmanas faster than Elysian. Daerid had been nodding from the start. Giving his oiled beard a twist, Elysian muttered, What do you intend to do then? Just sit and wait for them? That's what you're going to do, Matt told him. Burn Rand and his maybe 50 Aes Sedai. Burn him and his loom a little, intimidate them. Waiting right there until somebody came out from the village to ask who they were and what they wanted seemed a very good idea. No Tavirin twisting this time. Any battle was going to have to come to him. He was not about to walk into it. They are that way? Avienda said, pointing. Without waiting for an answer, she settled her bundle on her back and began striding west. Matt stared after her. Some warder would probably try to take her too and have his head handed to him. Or maybe not, warders being warders. If she tried to put a knife in one of those, he might just hurt her. Besides which, if she got to Elaine and began hair-pulling over Rand, or worse, stuck a knife in her, she was moving along quickly, almost trotting, eager to reach Saladar. Blood and bloody ashes. Talmanas, you have the command until I get back, but you don't stir unless somebody jumps on the band with both boots. These 4 will tell you what you might have to face. Vannin, you're with me. Oliver, stay close to Daerid in case he needs messages carried. You can teach him to play snakes and foxes, he added with a grin at Daerid. He tells me he'd like to learn. Daerid's jaw dropped, but Matt had already moved on. A fine thing if he ended up hauled into Saladar by a warder with a lump on his head. How to reduce the chance of that? The banners caught his eye. You stay here, he told the grizzled bannerman. You other 2 come with me, and keep those things furled. His strange little party caught up to Avienda quickly. If anything could convince the warders to let them through unhindered, one looked good. No threat in a woman and 4 men, and obviously making no effort to avoid notice, not carrying 2 banners. He checked the second squad. There was still no breeze, but they held the banners clutched to the steps. Their faces were tight. Only a fool would want to ride in among Aes Sedai and have those spread in a sudden breeze. Avienda glanced at him sideways, then tried to push his boot out of the stirrup. "Let me up," she ordered curtly. Why, under the light, did she want to ride now? Well, he was not going to have her scrambling up and very likely knocking him out of the saddle in the process. He had seen Aiel get on a horse once or twice. Slapping another fly, he leaned down and caught her hand. "Hold on," he said, and heaved her up behind him with a grunt. She was nearly as tall as he was, and solid to boot. "Just put your arm around my waist." She only gave him a look and twisted about awkwardly until she sat astride, legs bared above the knee and not at all concerned with it. Nice legs, but he would not have involved himself with another Aiel woman, even if she was not moonstruck over Rand. After a time, she spoke to his back. "The boy Oliver. The Shaido killed his father." Matt nodded without looking around at her. Would he even see any warders before it was too late? Leading the way, Vanin rode slumped like a sack of suet, as always, but he had a sharp eye out. "His mother died of hunger?" Avienda asked. "That, or maybe sickness. Warders wore those cloaks that could blend into anything. You could walk past them without seeing them. Oliver wasn't too clear, and I didn't press him. He buried her himself." "Why? Do you think you owe him something, since Aiel cost him his family?" "Oh?" She sounded startled. "I killed neither, and if I had, they were tree killers. How would I have told?" Without a pause, she went on, as if continuing in the same line. "You do not care for him properly, Matt Colton. I know men know nothing about raising children, but he is too young to spend all of his time with grown men." Matt did look at her then, and blinked. She had her headkerchief off and was busily running a polished greenstone comb through her dark reddish hair. That seemed to be taking all her concentration. That and not falling off. She had donned an intricately worked silver necklace, too, and a wide bracelet of carved ivory. Shaking his head, he went back to studying the forest. Aiel or not, they were all alike in some ways. If the world is ending, a woman will want time to fix her hair. If the world's ending, a woman will take time to tell a man something he's done wrong. It would have been enough to make him chuckle if he was not so busy wondering whether warders were watching him right that moment. The sun climbed to its zenith and tipped over by the time the forest gave way abruptly. Fewer than 100 paces of cleared ground separated trees from village, and the ground looked as if it had not been cleared long. Saladar itself was a considerable village of gray stone buildings and thatched roofs, and the streets were full and busy. Matt shrugged into his coat. The finest green wool embroidered with gold on cuffs and fall collar. It should be good enough to meet Aes Sedai in. He left it hanging open, though. Even for Aes Sedai, he would not die from heat. No one tried to stop him as they rode in, but people paused and every eye turned to him and his strange little company. They knew. Everyone knew. He gave up counting Aes Sedai faces after reaching 50. That number was reached too quickly for any peace of mind. There were no soldiers in the crowd, unless you counted warders, some in those color-shifting cloaks, some fingering a sword hilt as they watched him pass. No soldiers in the village simply meant they were all in the camps.
Oof, okay, that's a hunt done.
All the soldiers being in the camps meant they were ready to do something. Matt hoped Talmanas was holding to his instructions. Talmanas had some sense, but he could be almost as eager to go off and charge somebody as Nalisian. He would have left David in charge.
Thank you. Oh, so close to the milestone.
There did not seem to be any flies in They know something I don't.
Let's see this.
A pretty woman in odd clothes, wide yellow trousers, and a short white coat.
Ooh, so fucking close.
She was carrying a bow of all things.
I think I'll get 1.1k and the rod finished at the exact hunt.
But he could not say what. That was one trouble with all those old memories. He was always seeing people who reminded him of somebody.
And despite dropping all the time in my raw XP, I still managed to get a decent amount of XP. Like 50 to 51 is normal. Then you gotta level up, and because you're an EK, you need to find a team. And you dream of these numbers, I dream of 35 KK raw. But you gotta start from somewhere. Wait, Rashid is out today, right? Oh yeah, he is. Did anybody post where? Liberty Bay, nice. Okay. I don't know if there's going to be another chance to sell Yasir. Oh, did I say Rashid? I think I said Rashid. But selling Yasir loot up until next weekend when there's double. So I don't know if I'll be able to sell shit to him before then. So I might as well unload before the weekend. This here, this here. Okay, perfect. Oh, there's actually the solo bosses. I could probably do them right now. Might be, not be a bad idea, since nobody's online right now. And before I change everything for rune making. Do you have access to these daily bosses? The book ones. They're so easy to get access to and can get decent profit from them really. If they drop proficiency catalysts, that's like 500k in the bank easy. And they're solo bosses, so the worst case scenario is you have to wait for somebody to finish. And I can show you the mechanics. Here you have to kill the little summons because they heal the boss. That's one. But it's kind of nice how quickly you can get these done. Well, the boss that I just did for EKs is a massive pain in the butt, because you can't attack the boss while the minions are still alive, and the boss sticks to you, and you have to run to chase after those minions because they run away. So you can't really use Exori or Exori Gran or anything. You have to use Exori Min and single target attacks only. Sure, but then that's going to get them close to you. But the boss is also right next to you. So if you Exori to kill them, then you hit him. And if you hit the boss, he heals for 5,000 each time. So you have to kill them without hitting the boss. So they have to all be dead before you kill the boss. So I could tank the boss and then wave them from far away without any risk of hitting the boss whatsoever. But Exori Min and single targets and the finishers, or whatever the fuck they're called. Should I wait for this guy to finish or do the Liberty Bay one? Now let's do this one, and then I'll go to Liberty Bay and also sell Yasir stuff while I'm at it. But I hope the Snoop finishes fast. Oh, there we go. Sure, after this boss. It's not gonna take long. Though this boss is based on RNG, so it could take long depending on if I get only food stuff. No, the runes. Okay, this one's easy. Bam. 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 Okay, this one is ghosts. Okay. Nice. Sweet. I switched to my Sanguine Rod at the last moment because if I get the kill with the Sanguine Rod, then the proficiency XP I get from the boss, like 15,000. Well, maybe not 15,000, but whatever the proficiency XP that I get would go on the rod that I want it to. Though most of the time, well, you would save Big Rain. It would be if I remembered to do it all the time, but I keep forgetting. I'll do wheat again. It's really, really worth it. And while I'm warming it up, I can show you something funny. Let me put this down for a second. Okay. So this is my dedicated DP for used plasma amulets, and I have 22 pages of this. I try to remember, but I forget, I think, more than half, which makes it not really worth using it for mana sitting, but fuck it, it's just 6k each. And even though they're only 6k each, it still feels bad every time I fuck it up. Well, that's true, but it's not the smart way to go about it. And well, let's see. Oh, cheers. Fuck. I overshot. It's 20 degrees too high. Let's see how it goes. So the idea is the amulet lasts for 30 minutes and a life ring lasts for 20 minutes. So to make it easier on myself, I just replaced them at the same time. But I used to try to get as much use out of them as I could. But that makes it more likely for me to fuck up and run out of time if I only do it like in the last 30 seconds, it's much less likely for me to catch it right at that time. Meanwhile, I buy the amulets for less than NPC price. And I have 1,660 of them, so it should last a while. So I buy them for 5.8, use them till they have 10 minutes left, and then I use new ones, and I sell them for 6K. So in a way, the more time is left on them, the more money I make, the more profit I make, because I make 200 GP profit for each one that I sell. So if I go through more of these, then I just make more profit. That's what's kind of mad about it, that they're useful. And I don't even sell them for NPC. I don't even buy them for NPC price. I buy them for less than NPC price. But the problem with that is that if you take it off for a second, and you press the hotkey again, it's going to put a new one, even though the previous one still has 29 minutes and 50 something seconds left. Then you have to start sorting through all the used ones. Oh, yeah. Well, I use smart mode too, but I still have to throw them in DP after I'm done with them. So I have to do that manually. Well, for EKs, it's worth getting the most you can out of them, because the red ones cost more than 6K each. But because mine cost 6K each, and I could sell them to the NPC for 6K, then it doesn't matter if I leave them with 10 minutes, 1 minute, 28 minutes, etc. I mean, it's always still going to be free. So if it's free, doesn't really matter how many of them you go through. And that's a tip I got from a friend. And ever since he gave me that tip, all I do is just, out of convenience, I put a new life ring and swap out the plasma ring at the same time. That way I just have a 20-minute timer for each one. Makes it a bit convenient. Double cheers. See you later, dude. Yeah, I'll end the stream here as well. Have a good one, guys.